Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Everything Gucci? Uh, it's good to see you. I'm glad the room is filling up. So let's do a roll call. Roll call, everybody. If you're watching this on replay, that's okay. You can participate too. I'll be back to check. So just type here. Just let me know that you're here. I switched up the background a little, right? You may have noticed. Some of you have noticed. So that's cool. I'm glad you're liking it. I've actually had these. I've had these for a while now. I just never put them up because yeah. Let's ease into it. I want to get to the war crimes in the first minute. Let's ease into it. God. Yeah, I've had these for a while now. Some of these, they're album artwork. So album artwork is traditionally in a square format. And I really like some of them. And you can't really buy posters of all of them. I think the Jimi Hendrix one, that one's one I bought. The Muse one as well. But the Tupac one, no, over here. The Tupac one, the Green Day one, the Bravery, you can't get these, so I had to make them myself. And I have that for a couple of years. I was like, man, I've never put these up, or at least they were on the other side of the room, so I might as well put them up. And yeah, you can see the for the keen observers among you, this one over here, the Coldplay one, the album artwork is a globe, actually, right? So. Which is the reason I had the globe in the first place. And my mom had this amazing idea of just meshing the two. So now you have 3D album artwork in the corner. Isn't that beautiful? Which prompted me to put the mic on the other side now so we can appreciate that. So there you go. I just wanted to do that. There's more stuff that you can't see. There's like a Breaking Bad poster up there. Dr. Dre, The Chronic. There's some Battlefield stuff, which you could see before, but it's now out of frame. So whatever. And yeah, hold on. There you go. So yeah, anyway, let's ease into it, right? So if you haven't drone strike the like button, do that now. It helps with the algorithm. As you can tell by the title of the stream, again, Syria is a naughty word, so I had to put a $sign, or you could put whatever various symbols and accents you like. To avoid them demonetizing the video or, partially limiting. This is something people don't understand, by the way. They think that it's about money. It's not about money, man. Like you're looking to make money on ads anyway. But the thing is, they will lower the recommendation of your video. So like people won't actually see the video in the first place, So when we talk about like all these other channels, I mean, it happened to me last year, right? You remember when they demonetized me? But recently you had other channels like Nico's House. You had other channels like, man, there's so many, like Fort Fisher, Frank Analysis, Combo Couch, Graham Elwood. They're all getting their shit demonetized. And it's not about the money. First of all, it's not just about ads. Even super chats you won't be able to do when you go live. And on top of it, they stop showing your videos. They stop recommending it. They manipulate the algorithm to basically go and hide your videos away in a cave more than usual. So that's the real problem, and it is censorship, right? In both ways, because you're basically putting a muzzle on independent media. You're kneecapping them by preventing them from doing their job, and then on top of it, you're also making sure people can't actually hear or listen or see what they're doing. So yeah, it is an issue. Again, we're going off on a little tangent there, but it is important. And it's insulting, honestly. It's insulting. I think that it's bad regardless, like in general. I mean, even if I wanted to talk about fucking, I don't know, Rockwool, or I wanted to talk about tacos or orange juice, you shouldn't fucking censor me. But I think it's even worse that, you can't even say the name of your own country. Like, I have to put a $sign instead of the S. I mean, how degrading is that? And like, not just any country. It'd be bad for any country, right? But not just any country, but for Syria as well, which is like older than. I mean, again, it's like Damascus is the oldest city in the world, dude. I mean, have some fucking respect. Like, shame on you, bitch. Where the fuck do you even get off doing that? Where do you get off doing that shit? Honestly, like, how dare you? How fucking dare you? Anyway, we're gonna calm down. We're not gonna calm down. I'm angry, and I want to get into it because, okay, let me pull up my tab that I have ready for you over here. We're gonna ease into it, right? As I said. So that's a perfect segue into what I want to talk about. So yeah, I'm angry. I'm angry a lot because, you know, now is the 10-year anniversary of the war on Syria, of you know, this war that just never seems to end. And even when it does seem like it's going to end, they come and slap Syria with even worse sanctions, kill more people. And, you know, the way that the media have been, quote unquote, commemorating it is, of course, by rehashing, reprinting the same garbage that they've been printing for the last 10 years, right? And I think it's really important to underline that, because the media are not being, you know, careless or dishonest. No, they're being deceitful on purpose. OK, they've played a large part in this war. And of course, that's true of many wars, but especially this one. You know, a lot of it was fought in with words, with ideas. It's propaganda, right? And it's just nauseating seeing them rehash the same nonsense, right? It's disgusting. It's insulting. And I wanted to talk a bit about that, right? Because, I mean, like, I'll get into me personally in a second, but I just wanted to show you like some of the reporting about it. So, I mean, if you go look at these headlines, right, you know, it's disgusting. They're just basically blaming everything on the Syrian government. They're blaming everything on Russia. They're blaming everything on, you know, anyone who basically tried to defend Syria from terrorism and from, you know, imperialist conquest. So, you know, if you look at this one from Al Jazeera, I mean, they're still calling it an uprising, right? Even with the language. If you look at this article from CNN over here, they're saying it. It's so hilarious how they're accusing the so-called victors. I don't really see how anyone's winning in this when, you know, you have 60% of the Syrian population who are under the age of 24. Think about that. Most Syrians are younger than me, which is insane. Like I'm 28, right? And most Syrians are under 24, and half of them are under 14. Like, they've grown up in a war basically their entire lives. And now they're being starved. And so I don't really see who's a victor in this. And they in the title, look at, they say they're basically talking about rewriting history. No, you're the ones who are rewriting history, okay? Because in all of their reporting, they make no mention of the fact that you had so many different countries, not just Western ones, but, you know, even Turkey, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, you know, these Arab kingdoms in the Persian Gulf, sending fighters, sending weapons, sending arms and logistical support and money to terrorist groups inside Syria. So, you know, to call that an uprising and act like none of that happened or downplay that, that's rewriting history. That's doing the job for the State Department and the FCO, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, right? The British State Department. So that's rewriting history, and they played such a huge role in this. And CNN, by the way, you know, obviously I don't think it's the same person who wrote this. But you remember the name of that? I can't remember her name, but you remember that reporter from CNN who went to Syria and she sniffs the backpack after the chemical attack? I'm sure one of you is going to put it in the comments now. She pretends to sniff a backpack after a chemical attack, which is right. It's like the first thing you do, right? After a chemical attack, you just go and sniff the thing, your contaminated evidence, like. You're obviously fine, so I'm starting to question the veracity of what you're doing and also your intellectual capacity, madam. But nonetheless, yeah, so they played a huge role in that, not just that alone. And, you know, they also tried doing a documentary, I think, and they basically went and embedded themselves with Al-Qaeda. Like, it's just, what the fuck? Like, you're just doing the bidding of you know, these Daesh, these ISIS nut jobs. And if you look at this article specifically, look at the language. Like, I'm not making this up. You can just see from one paragraph to the next, one line to the next, how they're trying to, you know, how their bias is so clear, and how they're trying to whitewash what happened in this war and what's still happening. So, you know, look at this. Hold on. There, you can see that. So they say how quickly it all turned violent. The Assad regime gunned down those who called for a peaceful transition to democracy. Gulf countries sent in suitcases of cash with a wink and a nod towards more religiously conservative fighting units. And then in the next line, Assad let former Al-Qaeda members and other criminals out of jail. The U.S., at the peak of its involvement, half-heartedly trained some moderate rebels, many of whom went on to join the ranks of extremist groups. So I wanted to say something here, right? Because CNN, whoever wrote this, the mainstream media, isn't it interesting how they don't mince words when they're talking about Assad? Like, Assad helped Al-Qaeda. That's what they're saying. They're naming the organization, saying Al-Qaeda. But then when it comes to the groups that Qatar and the Arab kingdoms were funding, who are offshoots of Al-Qaeda, no, those are more conservative groups. And then when the United States was training moderate rebels, which they ironically put in quotes, those are extremist ranks. No, hold on. You weren't in this just one sentence ago. You were not mincing words. You said Al-Qaeda. I actually don't know what they're talking about when they're saying that. I genuinely don't know what incident they're referring to with Assad letting former Al-Qaeda members and criminals out of jail. I don't know what that is. But they're saying afterwards that, the United States, Qatar, no. These are just, they're conservative groups, man. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying Al-Qaeda. Like, what the fuck? And not to mention, of course, I'm sure most of you already know this, but if you look at the origins of Al-Qaeda, if you look at the origins of these very groups, it's America, right? It's the United States. They created the Al-Qaeda, they helped fund the Mujahideen during the Cold War, okay, when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan from 79 to 89. And then afterwards, the early 90s, you have Al-Qaeda forming, right? And incidentally, I was in Pakistan, right? I was living in Pakistan at the time when I was a kid. And, for example, al-Zawahiri, who was bin Laden's right-hand man, he was leading a group called, the name escapes me now, Islamic Jihad, from Egypt, right? Because he's Egyptian. So he was leading Islamic Jihad. And he hadn't, they hadn't coalesced yet. He hadn't joined ranks with Al-Qaeda just yet. But these people were all previously funded by the Americans, right? So, for example, when they bombed the embassy next to my school, right? That was Al-Zawahiri. That was the Egyptian embassy. And this guy had received millions and millions and millions of dollars from the fucking CIA, just like bin Laden, just like all of these motherfuckers. So, it's like, you can't escape that. That's a historical fact. Even Hillary Clinton has admitted that. And then now again, you're seeing this 20 decades later, 20 years later, how they're still funding these same groups and letting them run loose, and then saying that Assad is helping you. What a load of shit! Like I can't underline how obnoxious and ridiculous that sounds. You can say whatever you like about Bashar al-Assad, but at the end of the day, the guy is he's a Ba'athist. He's leading a secular government. He's a mortal enemy of Al-Qaeda, of all these religious extremists. Okay, these people are mortal enemies. They're polar opposites. Just the same thing with Saddam Hussein, right? And that's ironically why you did not have these fucking groups in Iraq and in Syria running wild, blowing up markets, gunning people down, executing them in public when they were in power, because they would not let this shit happen in the first place. They're fucking polar opposites. And now, but the average person has no idea. And so they read this garbage from CNN and just swallow it up. They have no fucking clue. Like it's so dumb. I can't explain it any simpler. They're polar opposites. But of course, the new way of propagandizing the war now is they say, oh no. You see, this was a genuine uprising, but Bashar al-Assad purposely helped Al-Qaeda usurp and take over the genuine revolution because it was favorable to him. What? How is that favorable to him? They would kill him if they took over. Like how is that favorable? You can't just come here and say, oh yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, that doesn't work here. That's absurd. What they're trying to do is they're trying to whitewash the role of the United States. They're trying to whitewash the role of Britain, the role of France, the role of Qatar, Turkey, Israel. Dude, the fucking chief of the Mossad, the ex-chief of the Mossad, he sat down with Mehdi Hassan. We covered this on Al Jazeera, just straight up in the studio. He's saying, yeah, we helped Al-Qaeda fighters because we wanted to see the Syrian government fall. Do you think that's mentioned anywhere in these articles when they're talking about the 10-year anniversary of the Syrian war? Nowhere. Not a fucking peep. I showed you that. It's not conjecture or speculation. He said it. It's straight from the horse's mouth. Go look on the channel. Go look at Mehdi Hassan, Mossad chief. You see the interview yourself, right? So they're still trying to fucking market this as, oh, it's it's an uprising, and it's 100% uprising, right? Because let's be frank with each other here. Are there Syrians who had grievances with their government and genuinely want to reform who are not fucking jihadists? Yes, of course, 100%, right? And I think even if you went and you sat down with Bashar al-Assad himself, he's going to tell you, yeah, we have corruption issues. There's a lot to change. But you can't come here and say that it was only that. Like you can't say, oh, it was only an uprising and nothing else, and we're not going to talk about anything else. Like they're not going to mention this, right? None of them are talking about the fact you had this faked chemical gas attack in Douma in 2018, and that was used as a pretext by the US, UK, France to bomb Syria. You don't think that's a big fucking thing that you should mention? No? Further lies about WMDs, you're not going to talk about that? Here, WikiLeaks exposed all of this stuff, right? I've covered this extensively. The Grayzone covered this extensively. We have, it's all there. It's all there, right? And then, of course, this very famous headline in the New York Times, right? Behind the sudden death of a $1 billion secret CIA war in Syria, right? That's just that's just a figure they'll allow you to know. Then you have Operation Timber Sycamore, of course, where they were shipping off weapons into Syria as well. I mean, there's so much evidence about this, and not just the United States, of course. Saudi Arabia, they were helping the rebels, right? I mean, it's obscene. It's obscene. We have so much evidence. It's a proven fact that you have a dozen countries that have been trying to overthrow the Syrian government. So you can't come here after 10 years and just say that it's only been an uprising and no one is to blame except the Syrian government. That's a whitewashing of history. That is a pure whitewashing of history. But I don't expect anything better, because these people who are saying this, the mainstream media, they have been a part of this. They have been a part of propagandizing and selling this war. Okay, that's it. That's been their job. So, and of course the irony of they talk about interference and all these things. And we saw with these leaked documents from the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office how, the British government was setting up. They were using former diplomats, former MI6, former military, okay, to go in Syria or in nearby Turkey, northern Syria on the border, and also in Lebanon, but mainly Turkey, to set up, these groups like the White Helmets, and behind them you had these fronts. So these, intelligence fronts or cutouts, if you'd like to call them, who were, organizing and fundraising for not just the White Helmets, but just in general to, train journalists and rebrand these Al-Qaeda fighters and their offshoots and these jihadists as moderate rebels. I mean, I can't make this shit up. You remember? I think Ben Norton, he highlighted this in his article, because it's in the documents, right? Those documents, they're online. You can find them. They're from Anonymous. Okay, so Anonymous got them. But there's one slide in there which it's like out of a cartoon. Like, you can't make this shit up. There's literally a fucking slide there about how the British government, they want to rebrand these these like right-wing hardcore Islamists as more moderate rebels. Look at that. Like, it's literally a fucking slide. Softening the FSA image, the Free Syrian Army, which of course, they tell you is like, oh no, that's nothing to do with the jihadists. And, that's like a purely, strictly, just pro-democracy movement, just like the White Helmets, right? And then you see like people from the White Helmets in the background while people are being executed in public. Like, it's just fucking nuts. So it's really important to underline the role that the media has played. This isn't just a war that has been fought with bombs and with bullets and with guns. It's a war that's been fought with words and ideas, with propaganda, right? I think it's the most propagandized war in modern history, really. And that's saying something after Iraq. I think the buildup to the war in Iraq was truly something. But this sustained campaign across 10 years now by the mainstream media to push for regime change, I mean, it's extraordinary, right? And, you don't have to take my word for it. If all of this wasn't enough, I mean, I don't know what's going to convince you that we're not just dealing with some kind of grassroots revolution here that was, it was just magically served. No. They've been trying to do this for a while now, right? Regime change in Syria is a thing. That's a goal, a long-term goal that predates 2011. Okay, so if you want to take my word for it, here's General Wesley Clark. I think he'll spell it out for you pretty adequately.
I knew why, because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said,
I mean, you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. And, I think this stuff would be heartbreaking regardless. Like, he mentioned a bunch of other countries too. Look at that. Look how many of those countries have effectively been subject to regime change and imperialism. Look how much of that so-called supposed prophecy came true. A lot of it, right? Now, I think it's just nauseating. I think it's so revolting that they're still rubbing this in our faces. I don't know. I think it's disgusting, and I think there isn't a Syrian in the world, not just in Syria. There isn't a Syrian anywhere who hasn't been impacted by this war, right? And yeah, that's true of many conflicts, but we're talking about Syria right now specifically. And the thing is, like, I wasn't there during the war. I was there right at the beginning of the Arab Spring. And ironically, I told you about that, how, in the other countries, in Tunisia and Egypt, like, they were blacking out the internet because they knew people are organizing protests online. They cut off the internet, like it was shut down. In Syria, you had YouTube and Facebook that used to be blocked, and the Syrian government unblocked them at the beginning of the Arab Spring. They're like, "Yeah, here, take it, use it." Like, so that's one thing. But I was there in the beginning, and so I didn't go through the same things that my cousin went through, that my family went through, right? So I have some family that are still there, but I still think that okay. I mean, I experienced that bombing in Pakistan. But what my cousin went through, Roni, for example, which I had on the show. I wanted to bring him on today, but he's busy. He can't come on. But he's been on the show. He's talked about it before. I mean, the things that he saw, and I'll get him on so he can tell you himself again. But if he wants to, of course, it's traumatizing, right? But I think we all experience the war in a different way. Like, you can't tell me that not being able to go to your home country and see your family for 10 years is not going to hurt you emotionally and psychologically. Like, you can't sit there and tell me how to feel about that. Like, yeah, I didn't experience the war in there like my cousins did, or like other people. Like if you compare to other people, we actually had it good. Like, I didn't get anyone killed in my family, thank God, right? There are other families who've been through way worse. Like, they drowned in the Mediterranean, or they got blown up or something, right? So thank God nothing that bad happened to my family. But still, everyone suffered in a way. Everyone suffered somehow. The family that I still have in Syria right now, if they went through the war and now they got sanctions on top of it. So you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone suffered to a certain degree. And I think even if you're not Syrian, just like, for example, when I look at Iraq, when I look at Yemen, or when I look at other countries, I don't necessarily have any kind personal connection with that country, but you just have some empathy towards it. And I guess my broader point here is that it's just that it's insulting the way that they report on this, that they lie about it, and they try to make it out to be like 100% grassroots revolution, and hiding all of this shit about the regime change, about the chemical attacks that they staged and covered up in order to justify bombing Syria. Like they're funding fucking terrorists, man. I mean, how do these people sleep at night? Honestly, it's unbelievable. And it's heartbreaking. It really is. And if I was thinking about this the other day, it dawned on me, and it's pretty heartbreaking. If tomorrow morning, for example, I went back to my old neighborhood. Well, I've lived in several, but if I went back to my old neighborhood, no one would be there. My grandparents passed away. My mom couldn't even bury her father because we couldn't go because of the war. And, my cousins left, my other cousins left. There's no one there, right? And again, like there are people who've experienced worse things than me, but it's still heartbreaking. And because you have your whole childhood there, you have your whole, your family basically. I'm not close with anyone on my English side, right? So yeah, I think everyone's been impacted by it. And when you see them lying about this shit the whole time, it's nonsense, right? It's insulting. So anyway, and by the way, there's I don't know if you remember this famous picture. Again, I don't know what I'm allowed to say or show. Like this is so annoying. I want to speak without filter and just report, and I'm scared about YouTube like playing with the algorithm because I said a naughty word. Like, oh my God, he said Syria. Like, fucking dystopian. I don't know if you remember this picture, which was widely circulated in the media of this boy who was covered in dust and blood. He was a toddler, and he looked like he was shell shocked. I mean, probably so, because he survived a bombing, and he's sitting there, and this was like front page news. They printed it everywhere, right? And they said, "Oh, look, Assad is killing children, and this is his fault and everything." And it turns out that was complete bullshit. And Ava Bartlett, who I've had on the show before, went and actually interviewed the boy's father. Like she went, because she was in Syria, right, for a while. She went and interviewed the boy's father, and he told her that he actually supports Assad and that it was not the Russians nor the Syrian army that bombed them that day. And do you think CNN have ever corrected that? Do you think all these mainstream outlets have ever corrected that? Not a single one. So like it just speaks to how they're willing to exploit even children that are literally fucking shell-shocked, like literally shell-shocked from a bombing and covered in blood, and they're willing to exploit that for their fucking bullshit. It's insane, honestly. They're so disgusting. The media and the State Department and the FCO, they're one and the same. Like it's just a criminal enterprise. It really is. It's a criminal enterprise. So yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess in some ways we should be happy that ISIS didn't take over the fucking country. Does that bring back all the dead people? No, unfortunately. You can't replace people's lives. And the people who, again, this is something I don't think is talked about enough. The people who did survive, what about them? Like their mental health, their trauma. Like, how do you deal with that? Many of them are kids. You remember, like 60% of Syrians are under the age of 24, man. This is a young nation, right? And all they've known for the last 10 years is war. That's horrible. I had a tiny taste of that when I was a kid in Pakistan, and that's enough for me, right? I can't even imagine what they've been through. I cannot even imagine. And, it's just so messed up. My cousin is busy right now. He can't come on because he's in a lecture, but he says hi to you guys. I'm talking about Roni. If you go back in the channel, I'm sure you'll find a couple of videos where he came on. Sometimes he came on the show spontaneously. I love that. So he says hi, and he says he misses the old days. He's going to be done in a month, and then he's got all the time in the world. So yeah, if he's down, I'm going to bring him on the show. I need to bring him on more often, of course, right? So yeah. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Well, it's not, because we got more. There are more topics I want to cover now to do with Syria, but about this 10-year anniversary, I think it's crazy how much the media lie. Not surprising, but particularly with the war in Syria, yeah. So we have a couple of super chats I want to read to you over here. This is from, hold on, I can pull them up on the screen this time. I got my thing together. So this one is from Marissa. Marissa says, currently doing, oh, no. I did not mean to put the party lights on. Hold on. Those were left over from when we covered Neuro Tendon. Okay, we'll put away the party lights. Marissa says, currently doing a final exam, but wanted to pop in, say hello, and get my support. Thank you so much. You're so sweet, Marissa. I really appreciate that. Marissa's really a gem. You guys are too kind. We also got another one over here from, hold on, let me try and pull this up. There's no note attached. It's from Beer Consulting. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for your support. Don't worry, we got a lot more segments to get to, of course. I'm just going to read your super chats before we get to them. David, thank you for your donation. DC says St. Patrick's Day celebrates ethnic cleansing. Well, I'll be honest, I don't know enough about St. Patrick, but I do know that today we had a march. The Assange activists did a march in DC and actually worldwide. So they also did, you had a worldwide action for Assange because of the clover, right? So again, I had Gloria on the show, Gloria Jones, to explain that and the meaning of the clover and how it became associated with the movement. I think that's great. And, I think it's great that you have so many people worldwide doing stuff for Assange. It's really good. Gregory Casey says, would you like to discuss why these deranged psychos in so many countries are hell-bent on shattering Syria? Well, actually, that's a great question. And I thought it was kind of obvious why. Once again, I'll just read it again. The question here from Gregory says, would you like to say or discuss why these deranged psychos in so many countries are hell-bent on shattering Syria? Okay, so it's a multi-pronged answer, right? Because as we saw when General Wesley Clark is talking, the regime change agenda was not just in Syria, it's a lot of countries, right? I mean, just geographically, right? You get the globe behind me. If you look at all the places that the United States has either, not just the US, but the UK as well, have invaded and occupied or tried to invade, they're trying to form an axe, basically, all the way from, Afghanistan to, Palestine. And so they've succeeded, of course, in unfortunately, in decimating Iraq and Afghanistan, and decimating Libya. Syria, I think, is a bit different. There are people who say, for example, that it's about a pipeline, which is why, for example, you had Qatar, who are also funding, right-wing extremists and jihadists inside of Syria. I don't think it's just about that, because they wanted to build a pipeline between, going from Qatar all the way through Syria into Turkey to undercut Russia's market share, because Russia supplies a lot of gas to Europe. I don't think it's just that. Of course, yes, they imperialists, they do war for economic reasons, for profit. Yes, of course. But I don't think it's just that. I think Syria is a particular case because Syria does not recognize Israel. Syria has a big axe to grind with Israel since 1948, right? Since 47, because of Palestine. And then 1967, when Israel stole the Golan Heights and then annexed them. Yes, they annexed them. They just straight up annexed that shit, in violation of international law. Syria also supports Hezbollah, right? Which is both a political group and a militia inside of Lebanon, in southern Lebanon specifically, which is a form of resistance against Israel. They kicked Israel's ass and kicked them out of their country. They were occupying southern Lebanon. Syria supports the Palestinian cause, right? As I mentioned, they support armed Palestinian resistance. Syria is allied with Iran. Syria is allied with Russia. I mean, it's like if you had a checklist of all the things that are going to make sure that Uncle Sam, wants to invade you, yeah, Syria is way up there and ticks a lot of those boxes. But for a short while, it didn't, and I'll get to that in a second in the next segment. So these are some of the reasons, right? So, like I said, there are many countries targeted for regime change, but Syria specifically, because also of its geopolitical, its geographical importance. I mean, Syria is on the border with Turkey. It's on the border with Lebanon. It's on the border with the occupation of Palestine, right? It's on the border with Palestine. It borders Jordan as well. It's on the Mediterranean Sea, right? It also borders Iraq, of course. It's on the Mediterranean Sea. It has access to the Mediterranean, which is where the Russians have their base since the 1971, I think, or 73. And so, there are many reasons, right? There are many reasons. And of course, one of those reasons is the fact that Syria does not want to bend the knee to, U.S. hegemony, American exceptionalism. They're not for sale. Okay, we are not for sale. Syria is not for sale. Is Syria perfect? No, but of course not. Definitely not. No country's perfect. Does Syria have problems in the government? Yeah. Is there corruption? Yeah. But look at the countries that do bend the knee to Uncle Sam. You want to be the United Kingdom's bitch or the United States bitch? No. That's disgusting. That's degrading. We're not we're not the UAE. Okay, we're not Saudi Arabia, as a matter of fact, right? So if Saudi Arabia wants, and again, when I say these things, by the way, I'm not insulting the people of Saudi Arabia, right? I think the UAE, they have 80% of their population are foreigners, but Saudi Arabia, it's not the people that are the problem. It's the fucking leadership, of course, right? And that's true of every country. But we're not Saudi Arabia, okay? We're not for sale. We're not going to prostitute ourselves to the U.S. And do their bidding. It's and this is the price you pay, right? This is the price you pay when you stand up to the U.S. and the U.K. and their allies. You get sanctioned. You get bombed. They try to coup you. Just look at Iran. Just look at Syria. Just look at Libya. Just look at Venezuela. Look at Cuba, right? That's the price you pay for not getting in line with Uncle Sam. So, again, many reasons. And of course, you do have some people who will come and say that, it's a sectarian thing, No, I don't believe that it's a sectarian thing, 100%. I think that that's just exaggerated on purpose. And by the way, if you go and you read, again, this is why I love WikiLeaks. You can go on WikiLeaks right now. You can look up these U.S. cables from the U.S. Embassy in Damascus in 2006, I think. And you can see in the fucking cables, the chargé d'affaires in the U.S. Embassy is telling Washington that the United States should try to fearmonger and create, this tension about Iranian influence inside of Syria, right? And that they should fuel sectarian issues. They wanted to pit Shia and Sunni inside of Syria on purpose, just for the sake of destabilizing the Syrian government. That's not me saying that. It's in the fucking State Department cables. Go and read them. So this is 5 years before the so-called Arab Spring. So you don't come here and tell me that they've not been trying to overthrow the Syrian government, or that there's it's 100% genuine uprising. Go and fuck yourself. There's a mountain of fucking evidence, showing that they've been trying to overthrow the Syrian government, and not just the U.S. That's the thing. You got a dozen countries, all with their various, different interests. But I think those are some of the main reasons. And what more do you need than Israel's ex-Mossad chief telling you they're helping Al-Qaeda fighters? I mean, they don't even have any shame, right? They just have zero shame. They just straight up admit that shit. Unbelievable, right? I hope that answers your question. So just give me 1 second, excuse me, and I'll continue with your super chats. I just want to make sure one thing over here is good to go. Yeah, so one moment. Take care of a technical issue. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are liking the background, right? You're liking the backdrop or whatever. Again, I thought of changing it for a while, and I think it's a significant improvement. So if you don't mind me saying. So just 1 second, I'll get to your super chats. And yeah. Okay, so all right, over here on, thank you for your patience. Over here on YouTube, we have another super chat from DC. Says, hope leftist Biden voters had a nice brunch with all that blood on their hands. Thoughts on Sykes-Picot and Treaty of Sèvres in the impact on the modern world. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Sykes-Picot, basically, you know, they were British and French diplomats who carved up the Middle East, right? So, you know, when you go and you look at a map of the Middle East now, you see a bunch of countries, right? You know, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Palestine, the Zionist occupation. You know, I mean, it's not just the Middle East, by the way, right? This is colonial business as usual. But they basically decided to carve up the Middle East after World War I when they defeated the Turks, and used, you know, Lawrence of Arabia and the Arabs, the Arab Revolt, to kick the Turks' butt. Because you have to remember, the Ottomans were occupying Syria and you know, the Middle East for around 400 years, right? So they used this Arab revolt to overthrow the Turks and or the Ottomans rather, and then you know, they lied to them. They promised them that, oh yeah, you know, we're gonna give you back all your land, and it's gonna be you're gonna be in charge and all this thing, and they screwed them over, right? And so they basically partitioned the Middle East, right? They decided, like, okay, well, you know, we'll the British can have Iraq, and, you know, we'll share a bit of land over here. Will be shared between the British and the French, and you know, the French can have Syria, and you know, just I'm not like saying that as hyperbole. No, this is just a partition plan. Yeah, you know, you can have this bit of land. Well, it's just a bunch of old white dudes like sitting around a fucking table and just drawing up made up shit, made up lines, and divide. You know, it's the, you know, the quintessential example of divide and conquer, right? How much easier will it be to rule over the Arabs if we just divide them up, right? And your question is its impact on the world today. We're still feeling it, right? We're still feeling it. This is just one aspect. It's just one aspect of why we speak of a neo-colonialism. I'd say that manifests itself a lot in the, you know, things like the World Bank, the IMF, how they screw over developing countries, the theft of resources that's still ongoing through multinationals. You know, those are definitely main pillars of neocolonialism. But one of them is as you so correctly pointed out, is the Sykes-Picot you know, agreement, and how that still affects the Middle East to this day, right? And this is really interesting because you always hear people, even Trump. Do you remember Trump when he was talking about Syria? He's like, when he was talking about, I think this was when he moved the capital, the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and recognized it as Israel's capital. You know what he said back then? He said something along the lines of, you know, these people, they've been fighting over there for thousands of years. Really? You know, that's got nothing to do with you, like, invading and shit, you know? No? Like the Crusaders 1,000 years ago, and, you know, the invasion by the Ottomans, occupation 400 years, and then the French, and then the British, and then, you know, the Israelis, and you, and no, that's got nothing to do with you. It's so easy to come in and fuck shit up, and then be like, oh, look at these savages, they keep fighting it, boy. I haven't the faintest idea why. You motherfucker. Like, there's so, this colonial mindset, it's just so arrogant, honestly. It's unbelievable. It's so easy to just point you know, fingers, like, look at these savages here, boy. Look at them. I haven't the faintest idea why they're fighting. Rather bizarre, yeah. So yeah, we're definitely feeling the impact to this day. And that's just one region. That's just one region where you're feeling the impact. Look at Kashmir, you know, look at what they did in Africa. Man, damn! I dropped my glass. Thank God it's not full. So there you go. And we got a hold on a second. I'm trying to switch between tabs so you guys can read this. We got a couple of super chats on Rockfin as well. Thank you. We got 28 people watching on Rockfin. That is beautiful. If you guys have not signed up yet on Rockfin, I strongly recommend that you do. Here, I'm going to plug it because it's very important for independent media. We need an alternative to YouTube because they've been, censoring channels. Like I mentioned before, I think they deleted Vanessa Beeley's channel a week ago. I was interviewing her for TV, and then like we start talking, and she's like, "Yeah, they deleted my YouTube channel like an hour ago." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, it's real. And Whitney Webb's Patreon account got shut down. So we need to move off of these places. Like, this is not a joke. I mean, like Whitney Webb, Vanessa Beeley, Graham Elwood, Ford Fisher. We got Convo Couch as well. Frank Analysis. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple other names here. I mean, me myself last year. Like, this is real. It's not a coincidence, right? So definitely we need to decentralize, and I strongly recommend you go on Rockfin. You're going to find all of us already there. Like, most of indie media channels, especially the leftist ones, we've got the memo. Like, that's why we're all moving to Rockfin, and you can recognize most of these names over here, some of your favorites, and the list is much bigger than that, by the way, huh? So I highly recommend you make a free account. It don't cost you nothing. And if you want to support, it's $10 a month, and you get everyone's premium. So it's like Netflix for politics. I think it's a sweet deal, and it runs on crypto as well, so that's even better. And there's no censorship bullshit, right? So when I made my stream right now, when I set it up on Rockfin, because I'm streaming on Rockfin at the same time, I was able to write Syria in the title the correct way with an S. Yeah, so I appreciate that, right? Like, how absurd, honestly, how absurd that I have to circumvent something as trivial as that. But yeah, there's no censorship on Rockfin, so I love that. It's not like on YouTube. So, okay, before I get to the rest of your super chats, and I really appreciate it, I'm just going to read a couple over here from Rockfin. We got one from Hamad Afzal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we also got one over here from Stonewall Jackwagon. There's no note either, but I'm grateful nonetheless. So thank you very much for that. And let me get to the next segments, because I'll read all of your super chats at the end. I think it's a better way to do it, right? So just excuse me. I need a sip of something. All right. Wow. So where do we go from here? Okay, I'm just making sure I got this up for you. Yeah, okay. So, excuse me. So, Esma al-Assad, who is the president's wife in Syria, she's the first lady. They've opened an investigation in the UK, and she risks losing her citizenship. Okay, so just some background info. Both her parents are Syrian, but she's born in Britain, if I'm not mistaken, and she grew up there, right? So she's a little bit like me, right? Also Syrian British. I mean, my mother is Syrian, my father is British. She sounds way more British than me because she actually grew up there. I didn't. But basically, they're trying to go after her now, and they're accusing her of war crimes, and they're threatening to take away her citizenship. Yes. I mean, if that is definitely one of the most absurd things I've heard in a while. So let's take a look, right? This was reported originally by The Guardian just a few days ago. They're saying Esma al-Assad risks loss of British citizenship as she faces possible terror charges. This is incredible, honestly. So they're saying here that the Metropolitan Police, so the London Met, opened a preliminary investigation into claims she has incited, aided, and encouraged war crimes by Syrian government forces. Okay? And they're saying she's being investigated in response to legal complaints alleging that her speeches and public appearances in support of the Syrian army implicate her in its crimes, including the use of chemical weapons. Now, they're saying that The Guardian understands the Met's war crimes unit. Is that hilarious that the Met has a war crimes unit? The British have a war crimes unit? That's like a band of arsonists who have a fire department. you know they're full of shit because they've never arrested anyone who works in Whitehall or in Westminster. That just tells you that they're full of shit. Like, you know, that it's just a front. It's just a cover. It doesn't mean anything. So they're saying that the Met's War Crimes Unit began its inquiries into Asma al-Assad earlier this year and is determining if there is enough evidence to launch a full investigation. Already targeted by UK, US, and EU financial sanctions. And by the way, not just her. I recall they also targeted Assad's son, who's like 17 or 18 or something. Like, what? They really got nothing better to do, huh? So already targeted by UK, US, and EU financial sanctions, the former New York investment banker and daughter of a Harley Street cardiologist could be stripped of her British citizenship and subjected to an international arrest warrant if the investigation proceeds. Now, they're saying that basically legal filings submitted by Guernica 37, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, Guernica 37 International Justice Chambers, quote speeches in which Assad lauds the mothers of slain Syrian soldiers and cite footage of her warmly greeting female troops. They point to interviews where she claims to have supported her husband out of personal conviction and glorified soldiers for defending the homeland. Okay, now we get to remember this name, all right? The evidence compiled, in our view, legally speaking, far exceeds what may be considered reasonable comment or mere propaganda and amounts to the incitement, encourage, and/or aiding and abetting of war crimes and crimes against humanity, said Toby Cadman, the joint head of chambers at Guernica 37. And they're saying that, I mean, look, let's just get one thing straight here. The first reaction that I had to this, I laughed because I thought it was something from The Onion. Honestly, like, what is this? You know, just hypothetically speaking, like, even if you want to agree with their nonsense, wouldn't it make more sense to go after, you know, military officials? What does his wife have to do with it? Like, of course, his wife is gonna support him in public. And it gets even more interesting. It gets even more interesting here because that name Toby Cadman, okay? He's one of the founders of this law firm, Guernica 37, okay? And he used to be a partner of Sherry Blair. You remember Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister who helped start the war in Iraq with George Bush? Yeah. Isn't that cute? Isn't that interesting? One of you actually reminded me of that. I think it was Collapse Into Now on Twitter said that to me, right? So they were working together at this firm, Omnia Strategy LLP, and they're involved in all sorts of shady crap. I mean, the Independent, they even called Cadman Sherry Blair's right-hand man, okay? So that's how close they are. And I find it so ironic here because Sherry Blair and Asma al-Assad have met before. Yes, they have a picture together, right? So, interestingly enough, here they are. Look, that's Bashar al-Assad, Sherry Blair, Asma al-Assad, and Tony Blair. And I said here, isn't it weird how the West suddenly has an issue with Arab and African leaders once they refuse to follow orders? So let me explain some context for you over here. Let me explain what's going on because you might be confused, right? When Hafez al-Assad died, who's Bashar al-Assad's father, this was in the year 2000, I think. I recall watching the funeral on TV because it was very big. And Bashar al-Assad, he wasn't supposed to take over. His older brother, I think, was supposed to, right? And he died in a car accident. He's an eye doctor, so he's trained in London. Right? He wasn't supposed to go into politics. He ends up being the successor, right? And what the West tried to do, I'm pretty sure this was their plan. It was to try and curry favor with him and bring them over to his side, to their side rather, because when Tony Blair invited him in 2002 to the UK, I mean, look at that. They're besties, right? In this picture. Here's Bashar al-Assad also meeting with the Queen of England, right? Amazing. It's crazy, right? So one minute he's meeting with the Queen of England, then he's meeting with Nancy Pelosi. There she is. She actually went to Damascus, right? She went to visit him in Damascus, and then he's here with Sherry Blair and Tony Blair, and now all of a sudden he's this big bad meanie dictator. Oh, that's weird, right? It kind of reminds me of Saddam. You remember Saddam when he was meeting with Donald Rumsfeld, and the U.S. sold him all those chemical weapons which he used. I mean, yeah, those were real. Those ones were real, not the ones in 2003. But it's interesting, right? How they use people, and then they as soon as they don't follow orders or they're done with them, they just kind of dump them. It's really like the mafia, honestly. It's truly like the mafia. It's not, hyperbole. So that's really interesting. And hold on, I got a better one for you. This is an article from the Times in 2012. They said the headline reads, "Assad close to being knighted under Blair. Tony Blair's government considered asking the Queen to bestow an honorary knighthood on President Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian dictator," official papers reveal. Crazy. Wow. A knighthood? I mean, again, like that's even further than just besties. That's a knighthood. Elton John is one of those. So, I mean, it's pretty big. I guess he didn't want to, he didn't do as he was told. And now we're seeing the consequences. And by the way, that's not like, I'm not just saying that. Israeli officials have also said, like, yeah, if Assad had just made peace with us, and when they say made peace, basically they mean like, come here, get on our leash and do what we say. That, that's their language, made peace. Syria would not be in the situation it is right now. They even talk like mob figures, it's like kind of abstract, but not really. Yeah. If Assad, he had just done what he was told by Israel and the UK and US, he wouldn't be in the situation he's in. It's true. It's true. Just look at Saudi Arabia. Look at all these Arab kingdoms in the Persian Gulf who are like this with Israel and the United States. They never had an Arab Spring. How weird, right? How weird. And they are way more repressive. I mean, I've yet to hear of the Syrian government chopping up a journalist in their Turkish, in their consulate in Turkey, like the way Saudi Arabia did to Khashoggi. And, in Syria, women can drive. They don't need a male companion to walk out the fucking door, right? So you want to talk about human rights abuses? You want to talk about repression? Look no further than Saudi Arabia. And weirdly enough, they are never subject to sanctions. There was no Arab Spring there. How bizarre. How fucking weird, right? Crazy. So... now they're saying they want to go after Asma al-Assad, so President Bashar al-Assad's wife, and I think I had a clip up of her, but if you go listen to the way she speaks, she sounds so much more British than me, like way more. The thing is, I was just thinking about how ridiculous their reasoning is. By their logic. Sherry Blair should be arrested, right? George Bush's wife should be arrested. Dick Cheney's wife should be arrested. Michelle Obama should be arrested. I haven't looked, but I'm 99.99% sure if you go on YouTube or you just Google it, you're going to find clips, articles of these wives, of these first ladies praising American troops. And American troops have committed war crimes. British troops have committed war crimes. They're still illegally occupying Afghanistan and Iraq. Right? So what's up with that? There's a clear double standard going on here, right? Even if you want to play devil's advocate and agree with their bullshit, why is there a double standard here? You want to go after the first ladies of people who've committed alleged war crimes? Okay, well, why aren't you doing that with Tony Blair's wife, or I don't know, Michelle Obama, or Melania Trump, or Jill Biden. Oh, my bad, Dr. Jill Biden. I'm pretty sure they've praised the troops before. I'm pretty sure they've done that. I'm pretty sure that they've spoken in favor of American imperialism, right? So are you going to prosecute them as well? I'd love to see it. At least be consistent with your bullshit. This just shows that it's political. And I don't mean because we're talking about politics. No, I mean in the sense that it's not based off of actual laws. It's based off of a political witch hunt. It's just bullshit, right? They hate that they can't actually find anything wrong that she's done. You know, if you go actually and look at the leaked emails, you remember there was like, oh my God, The Guardian has uncovered a treasure trove of leaked emails from Assad. The shit that they're talking about is like I think chandeliers or something that they wanted to buy for the presidential palace. Whereas if you go and look at leaked cables and leaked emails from the United States and Hillary Clinton, it's like, yeah, let's go and fucking bomb Libya and steal their oil. You know, okay, that was a pack. Sorry, that was a CAP email from New York Times. I kept thinking it's a DNC one. But still, you know, it's like, let's conspire with the DNC to elect Hillary. You know, let's make sure that Italy and Germany don't prosecute those CIA agents that were caught torturing innocent men in Europe and kidnapping them because they thought they were terrorists. That's the kind of shit you find. Right. And then they even tried to spin that and they're like, oh, look at them. They're living this lavish life while there's a war going on. Like, and so, yeah, Asma Assad, right? I mean, this woman just survived cancer. OK, she's a cancer survivor. She's regularly sitting down with average Syrians, regular Syrians, going and visiting villages, like a real people person. Right. Not like, oh, locked up in some ivory tower. And they're trying to demonize her because they just have nothing better to do. And again, just look a few years ago, they were putting her on the cover of Vogue magazine. I'm not kidding. She's on the cover of Vogue magazine. You know, over here, she's best friends with the Blairs, apparently. Well, I'm being sarcastic, obviously, but she's meeting with the Queen. Like, you know, what happened? What happened all of a sudden? Oh, I guess they didn't do what they were told. That's what happened, right? So this law firm over here, Guernica 37, I mean, it's founded by the right-hand man of Tony Blair's wife. What the fuck more do you want me to say? And the first thing that came to my mind is that, you know, the United Kingdom wants to try or investigate someone for war crimes. They refuse to investigate Tony Blair. They refuse to investigate Tony Blair. Look, this decision over here from a high court. Tony Blair prosecution over Iraq war blocked by judges. This is in 2017. Okay, the reasoning is that the High Court rules there is no crime of aggression in English law under which the former prime minister could be charged. Wow, what an amazing way to escape, you know, murdering 1 million Iraqis and displacing millions. Genius, right? So when it comes to prosecuting Tony Blair for illegally invading Iraq and killing 1 million Iraqis, oh, I'm sorry, old boy. There's no crime of aggression under British law. But when it comes to Julian Assange exposing war crimes from that very same war, the Iraq War and Afghanistan, oh, now all of a sudden, U.S. law, United States law, they're going to find ways to make that work in British law. Amazing, right? Amazing. And that's what the judge did. You remember, I went through the judgment with you from Beretzer. She agreed with all the political charges. And again, as far as my understanding goes, I'm pretty certain this is what she did. She tried to find parallels between the crimes that the U.S. is accusing Assange of, you know, cyber crimes, espionage, just bullshit. She tried to find parallels under British law, right? Which is fucking worrying. Not to mention with the fact that she agreed to she agreed to the political charges in the extradition indictment. But you know, it's interesting, right? And when we talk about crime of aggression here, when they talk about a crime of aggression, this comes from the ICC, from the International Criminal Court. Okay, so the ICC has 4 main crimes that it prosecutes. So you have genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and a war of aggression. The war of aggression, I think this was adopted in 2010. No, excuse me. I think it was 2016 when it came into effect. And you know, the Rome Statute is from 1998. So when they originally formed it in 1998, it didn't have a crime of aggression, war of aggression. Now it does, but the UK refuses to ratify that. Right? So they're like, yeah, you know, we agree with like 3/4 of what the ICC wants to prosecute. And so that shields people like Tony Blair. It protects gangsters like Tony Blair and every other prime minister who comes in after him and also starts wars based off of nothing, just aggression, pure aggression, imperialism, regime change. Amazing, right? Amazing. So you know, when it suits them, all of a sudden, American laws apply, you know? And war crimes do apply. They're willing to follow the ICC when it comes to Bashar al-Assad's wife. But when it comes to following the ICC to prosecute Tony Blair, you know, for starting one of the biggest atrocities of the 21st century, oh no, sorry. Can't do it, mate. These motherfuckers. And then, of course, the irony that it's his wife who's actually a partner of the guy who founded the firm, this Guernica 37 that's going after Bashar al-Assad's wife. How weird, right? It's all one big gang, right? It's all one big gang. These people all know each other. And I mean, I don't even know what to say, dude. I don't know what to say. And by the way, you know, Sherry Blair, she's involved in all sorts of shady shit. You know, there's stuff with the Maldives, and Gurkhas also mad at her, accusing her of profiting off of veterans. I mean, she's just as corrupt as her husband. No surprise there. But again, you know, I think this is so absurd, and the fact they want to strip her of her citizenship, that's fucking insane. I mean, you know, what is that? Are you going to strip British soldiers who commit war crimes of their citizenship? Does that apply? You know, like actual murderers? There's an Iraqi man, I think he was 26 years old, hotel manager. His name was Bahamusa. He was punched to death, like literally beaten to death in custody in Iraq by a British corporal. Whose name I don't even care to remember. Fuck him. And that guy he spent 1 year in jail, and then they suspended his sentence. So, you know, if you invade Iraq illegally and you literally beat an Iraqi man to death, you will get 1 year in jail and then you're free. Is that guy going to be stripped of his citizenship for that war crime? Killing a prisoner of war is a war crime. And he wasn't, I mean, to call him a prisoner of war is almost it's an exaggeration. He's a fucking civilian. The guy's a hotel manager. He's not even an armed combatant. Like, how could you justify that? Even if he were an armed combatant that, you know, is no longer armed, you've arrested him, he's in custody. There's a Geneva Convention. You can't just beat a fucking prisoner of war to death, let alone a civilian. Is that guy going to lose his citizenship? Of course not, right? These people are vile. They're the scum of the earth. You know, they're the scum of the earth, and they want to come here and act like, you know, only Arabs and Africans and Latin, people in Latin America and Hispanics and North Koreans and Chinese and Russians and Iranians, they all commit war crimes. But no one in Britain commits war crimes. No one in the US commits war crimes. No one in France. Weird, right? It's incredible. What an incredible geographical anomaly that we only find people committing war crimes in those parts of the world. Crazy, right? Jesus Christ. So, Carolyn, thank you so much for your tip on Rockfin. It says, thank you, Richard, for your amazing investigative reporting. I love your perspective and wisdom and heart. You rock. Thank you so much, Carolyn or Caroline. I hope I'm saying it correctly. I really appreciate that. You're very kind and very sweet. And again, this is on Rockfin, so even better. I'm really glad to see so many people watching on Rockfin and using that instead, not just for my sake, of course, but just in general for indie media. So thank you so much for that. Sam K sent a super chat and says, actually, Bahrain had an Arab Spring, but they kept it quiet while the Saudis sent in tanks. Yeah, they did. I remember that shit. That was, I think that was the only one where they were like, no, this is, you know, it's not an Arab Spring, it's something else. Oh man, you know what the funniest part is? The Arab League kicked out Syria. I think since 2011. How are you going to kick out Syria of the Arab League? Like Syria is more Arab than half of the countries in the fucking Arab League. Like, you know, like what the fuck does that even mean? What is that? It's absurd. Honestly, it's absurd. And it's actually shocking because it shows you that they're doing the bidding. They're doing the bidding of the white man. They're doing the bidding of the West. They're doing the bidding of the colonialists, the imperialists. Shocking. Yes, unfortunately, in every country you have sellouts. In every country you have people who are corrupt. In every single country, all across the world. And it's very unfortunate when those people get into power, right? I mean, there isn't a government on this face of this planet that isn't corrupt, but it is disheartening to see how they are able to get away with their divide and conquer bullshit, right? It's really sickening. It's like, we're still in the colonial days, right? It's like it's a new mask, it's a new face, it's a new facade, but it's the same actors, literally the same actors who are meddling in these countries, and it's a shame because so many people are dying. I have so much I want to get to. So I thank you very much for your super chats. I will read all of them. I just meant that we're going to go through a lot of the segments because there's so much to cover, and I want to cover them with you. It's very important. If you'll just excuse me before we continue, I must go to the bathroom very quickly. I must go to the toilet, and I will get back very soon. In the meantime, I'm just going to put up the show plug thingy. If you would like to support the show, please do, but remember, you're not allowed to say Syria on PayPal, and that's not a joke because they will hold your payment. So, yeah, it's not a joke. So anyway, thank you for supporting the show. I'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. Go and get yourself a snack, and we'll be right back in just a minute. Alrighty, tidy. We are right back. We are here and we are live. So let's continue with the segments. Boy, this was an interesting one. This was an interesting one. I'm sure you guys have already seen this headline, but nonetheless, we're going to go through it. So let's just make sure the browser is up for you so you can see that. Okay. Okay, here we go. Right, so they're not done with Russiagate. They're not done with Russiagate. So let me read you this headline over here, okay? This is from Al Jazeera. They're saying, U.S. report says Russia tried to influence the 2020 election. And look at here, it says U.S. intelligence agencies also found attempts by Iran, Venezuela, and Hezbollah to meddle in the presidential election. Amazing, right? Amazing. So the assessment was made in a 15-page report into election interference published by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence on Tuesday. Okay, so we're going to go straight to the report. By the way, you know who the Director of National Intelligence is now, right? It's another war criminal that we've covered. She used to serve under Obama. She was deputy director of the CIA. Her name is Avril Haynes. Now she's the Director of National Intelligence. The first woman, by the way, right? So now you have a woman warmonger. and yeah, you know, she helped with the drone program. So, you know, she's a great person. But don't worry, because, you know, she's into erotica, and she bought a bar and turned it into something I can't remember. Something quaint. Go read the piece about her, which tries to, you know, whitewash her. So let's go straight to the report. Here it is. Okay. It's very interesting, huh? Now, one thing I will add, by the way, we'll get to that in a second about the Director of National Intelligence, but let's just take a look here. So their definition, okay, their definition of what constitutes election interference. They say, for the purpose of this assessment, election interference includes overt and covert efforts by foreign governments or actors acting as agents of or on behalf of foreign governments intended to affect directly or indirectly a U.S. election, including candidates, political parties, voters, or their preferences, or political processes. Okay, so election interference is a subset of election influence activities targeted at the technical aspects of the election, including voter registration, casting and counting ballots, or reporting results. And this is, of course, a declassified version of a classified document. They gave this one to Biden as soon as he took office in January. And I love how right off the bat, key judgment number one, we have no indications that any foreign actor attempted to alter any technical aspect of the voting process in the 2020 U.S. elections, including voter registration, casting ballots, vote tabulation, or reporting results. So, you know, what they're saying here essentially is that, yeah, Russia, again, just list the axis of evil, right? As George Bush said. So, you know, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, even Hezbollah this time. And I told you Syria, they're going to put Syria in that list sometime. It's coming. I guarantee you. They're saying Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, Hezbollah, they all tried to interfere in the election, but not by actually hacking voting machines or something. That didn't happen. The way they interfered, according to this report, they tried to influence people, right? So let's look at what they actually mean with that, okay? Let's look at what they actually mean with that. Now, when it comes to Russia, okay, they're saying that we assess President Putin and the Russian state authorized and conducted influence operations against the 2020 U.S. presidential election aimed at denigrating President Biden and the Democratic Party, supporting former President Trump, undermining public confidence in the electoral process, and exacerbating socio-political divisions in the U.S. Unlike in 2016, we did not see persistent Russian cyber efforts to gain access to election infrastructure. Really? Like, do you have any proof of that at all for 2016? I'd love to see that. I really would. I'm still, waiting for that one. And of course, they do this WikiLeaks smear where they say, oh, look, the Russians hacked, these Podesta emails, and then they gave those to WikiLeaks, which is nonsense. They just made that up to, push Russiagate, to justify, or rather cover for Hillary's shortcomings and also persecute Assange. So they're saying here, okay, that basically they're just saying the Russians, okay, they're saying that their strategy was to use their people linked to Russian intelligence to launder influential narratives, including misleading or unsubstantiated allegations against President Biden. What does that mean exactly? Because when we had the Hunter Biden scandal, with his business dealings in Ukraine, his business dealings in China, they all called that Russian disinformation. You remember that? The entire mainstream media apparatus, they were all saying, oh, this is Putin. This is Putin. Even though Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden never denied the documents are real. I mean, if someone comes out and publishes a lie about you, okay, like let's say, for argument's sake, that the New York Post were lying and that they lied about Joe Biden, about Hunter Biden, saying that he has business dealings in Ukraine and China. If someone lies about you, isn't the first thing you would do, you would come out and say it's not true, it's a lie? They never did that. And despite that, despite the authenticity of those documents, every mainstream media outlet decried them as Russian disinformation. What? Who brought Russia into this? Where does this come from? What is that? If anyone was trying to influence the outcome of the U.S. election, it's the mainstream media. It's the Silicon Valley companies. They locked the New York Post's Twitter account and stopped them from tweeting because of that article. Right? They put this warning label underneath. Oh, it's hacked materials. They tried to discredit a story that was real. Why? To protect one of the candidates. That's election interference inside the U.S. You need to worry about the media. You need to worry about Silicon Valley. You need to worry about those motherfuckers. Okay? Who are doing it overtly, like right there out in the open, and then saying it's Russia. What are you talking about? And then, of course, let's get to Iran. I think this is the funniest one. Okay, this was. Let's get to Iran. So they say here that we assess with high confidence that Iran carried out an influence campaign during the 2020 U.S. election season intended to undercut the re-election prospects of former President Trump and to further its long-standing objectives of exacerbating divisions in the U.S., creating confusion and undermining the legitimacy of U.S. elections and institutions. We did not identify Iran engaging in any election interference activities as defined in this assessment. So they're saying here, okay, that Iran's election influence efforts were primarily focused on sowing discord in the U.S. and exacerbating social tensions, including by creating or amplifying social media content that criticized former President Trump, probably because they believed that this advanced Iran's long-standing objectives and undercut the prospects for the former president's re-election without provoking retaliation. Hold on a second. So they're straight up saying, they're saying, Iran didn't try to actually hack voting machines or something. No, they just posted critical things, or they said critical things about Trump. Yes, I would imagine that after his maximum pressure campaign, after, pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal and slapping them with sanctions, and, flying a drone into their airspace and assassinating General Qasem Soleimani and all of the other various affronts on Iran, yeah, they're going to be critical. What does that How is that election interference? What does that mean? What does that mean? Hey, take a look at this. We assess that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei probably, they're not even sure, authorized Iran's influence campaign, and that it was a whole of government effort, judging from the involvement of multiple Iranian government elements. We have high confidence in this assessment. Okay, so you have high confidence, but you don't have actual proof. Is that what you're saying? Because when you say probably, I have high confidence, that's speculation. It's not really proof. That's not a certainty. Iran focused its social media and propaganda on perceived vulnerabilities in the US, including the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, economic recession, and civil unrest. Everyone is doing that because it's fucking real. The United States has had the worst response to COVID-19. You have millions of people unemployed and who have no health insurance because in this, demented system, you have healthcare tied to employment. You have social unrest. Look at what happened with George Floyd. Iran did that? Iran caused all these millions of unemployed? What are they talking about? Iran botched the United States response to the COVID-19 pandemic? How was that election interference? What the fuck? And here they talk about these threatening emails. Do you remember that? In a highly targeted operation, Iranian cyber actors sent threatening spoofed emails purporting to be from the Proud Boys group to Democratic voters in multiple U.S. states, demanding that the individuals change their party affiliation and vote to re-elect former President Trump. Okay, hold on a second. Do you remember this crap? Hold on, I had the article up for you over here. One second. I have a screenshot. I picked it out for you. Give me a second. So, yeah, here we go. Look at this. Director of National Intelligence, this is from October 2020. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe said the U.S. intelligence community believes Iranian and Russian operatives obtained voter record information, which enabled Iran to target some people with intimidating emails based on party registration about how they'd better vote for President Trump or else. Hold on, man. Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight, man. So you're saying in one paragraph that Iran wanted to undercut President Trump's re-election prospects, and then in another paragraph you're saying they were threatening people, pretending to be the Proud Boys and telling them to go vote for Trump. Which one is it? I mean, unless they're trying to say that Iran was trying to portray Trump supporters as being, extremely violent and harassing and trying to paint them in a bad way, I guess then it would make sense. But why would Trump's own director of national intelligence come out and talk about that then? Like if Iran is genuinely trying to help him get elected, rather undercut his efforts. I mean, this makes no sense. It's full of plot holes. And look, hold on, we're not done. Keep reading the report. Look what they want to say here. Okay. They're saying over here that they're saying that since early 2020, Iranian actors created social media accounts that targeted the United States and published over 1,000 pieces of online content on the United States. Though U.S. social media companies subsequently removed many. Tehran expanded the number of its inauthentic social media accounts to at least several thousand and boosted the activity of existing accounts, some of which dated back to 2012. Okay, let me explain that for you. I'll give you an anecdotal example. So, Press TV, for example, Google banned their YouTube accounts, everything that's related to Google services, right? Why? Because of sanctions. It says they were citing the OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, which is part of the Treasury Department, and it's because of sanctions. So you have to go and you make 10 other accounts because you know that 9 of them are going to get banned eventually and very soon. And instead of actually talking about how it's the sanctions that are basically prompting them to go and make a bunch of accounts because they keep getting deleted and banned, and not just them, by the way, it's happened to other foreign outlets, anti-imperialist ones like Telesur. They're saying, no, look, this is proof that they're trying to interfere. No, you keep deleting their accounts, and these are news organizations, and you just don't like what they're saying. That's all. But look how they twist that shit. It's hilarious, honestly. It's really hilarious. And one second, I missed one over here. But yeah, what's really unbelievable, honestly, is that if you think back to 2009, when you had these, they literally called them Twitter protests in Iran. Okay, they were saying, there was election fraud, and people are taking to the streets. The U.S. State Department reached out to Twitter and told them not to do any maintenance on the website, just for the sake of keeping Twitter up, keep it running, so that Iranians could use it as a vehicle to organize protests to, overthrow the government and basically keep this social unrest going. That's election interference, like literally election interference. Not to mention, do I really need to go? How far back do you want me to go? Because we can go far back. The CIA, okay, the United States and Britain have couped Iran. They got rid of Mossadegh and put the Shah in his place to steal the oil. And they were stealing the oil before that, right? In Abadan, they built this entire refinery. It was Anglo-Persian oil company, and what is known today as BP, right? So they've interfered in Iran's politics. Not interfered is an understatement. They've just straight up, couped the Iranian government and installed a puppet in his place, right? So for you to come around now and talk about this is unbelievable. And not to mention right now, I just did a report about this, 2 weeks ago. Max Blumenthal also wrote in the Grayzone about it. You had the British government, the FCO, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which is the equivalent of the State Department in the UK. Okay, they gave millions to the BBC, to Reuters. They put up these contracts specifically asking, news outlets to go and train journalists to spew anti-Russian propaganda. Okay, so not just like posting critical pieces online. No. The British government was giving millions of pounds for this program to BBC, to Reuters, to Bellingcat, to go and recruit people and train them to spew anti-Russian propaganda. And they interfered also in the elections. I think it was in Macedonia. And man, Max Blumenthal, he made me laugh so much. He was saying, can you imagine if you and me got parachuted into Texas to promote like some pro-Russia, pro-China candidate? We'd be locked up in a supermax prison. It's fucking true. It's fucking true. And that's how absurd it is. And it's a perfect analogy for what they were doing with Bellingcat, right? So that is a literal election interference. That's straight up, we're coming to alter the results here. We're coming to push a certain candidate. This is a joke over here. What this is, all of this. And by the way, if you go and read the part about China, they talk about how basically, again, there's no evidence of them trying to actually manipulate voter results or election results, and that they actually didn't do anything. Like it says in the part about China, they had no preference. They just didn't care if Trump or Biden won. And hold on, let me pull this up for you. It's the next one. So they say, we assess that China did not deploy interference efforts and considered, but did not deploy influence efforts intended to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Really? Well, the media, that's not what the fucking media are saying. Look at these headlines. Russia, China, Iran work to undermine U.S. election. Motherfucker, do you think people are actually going to read the article? Never mind the report. Never mind the report that we're going through right now. The average person is not going to read that. This is bullshit. This is just brainwashing, right? It's horrible, right? It's horrible. And I mean, it's unbelievable. The funniest one, honestly, that I find is about Hezbollah. I think that is just hilarious, honestly. Like, you know, they got nothing better to do than meddle in U.S. elections. So they say over here that we assess that Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah supported efforts to undermine former President Trump in the 2020 U.S. election. Nasrallah probably saw this as a low-cost means to mitigate the risk of a regional conflict while Lebanon faces political, financial, and public health crises. What does that even mean? What does that mean? Efforts? What are these efforts? Can you answer? Also, I'm curious how when they talk about undermine, re-election efforts for President Trump. No one likes Trump. Trump is a shithead. I mean, with that statement, you could just say Rachel Maddow also, undermined efforts for Trump's re-election. Every fucking news outlet that published anything bad about Trump undermined his re-election efforts. What does that mean? Where do you draw the line? And what can you give us specifics? This is nonsense. This isn't actually any information. It's some abstract sentence that the media just take as gospel and they run with it and report it, and people swallow this shit up. And here they say Cuba as well. We assess Cuba sought to undermine former President Trump's electoral prospects by pushing anti-Republican and pro-Democrat narratives to the Latin American community. Cuban intelligence probably conducted some low-level activities in support of this effort. What does that mean, low-level activities? What does that mean? They were posting memes on a Facebook page? Like, what? Explain! Because, yeah, I'm saying that's not a joke, because back in 2016, they were also saying, like, yeah, the Russians, they were posting memes online and that swayed the election. Damn, man. I mean, if people are that dumb that a couple of memes did it, wow. Wow. And here about Venezuela, look what they say here. They say that we assess that Maduro had the intent, though probably not the capability, to try to influence public opinion in the U.S. against the former president, meaning Trump. We have no information suggesting that the current or former Venezuelan regimes were involved in attempts to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. Okay, so translation, Venezuela did not interfere in your elections. Why are they here? What is this? What is this? Do you think that stopped the media from putting Venezuela in there? No, of course not. They just report anything that the intelligence community says as fact. That's it. Just garbage. And the irony also of like, oh, it's Maduro who wanted to interfere in American in U.S. politics. Really, you don't think it's the other way around? Like these sanctions that are literally meant to oust Maduro, to get rid of him. That's not interfering, right? Starving, killing people to overthrow a government, or the fact that you had the Silver Corps coup attempt, a literal fucking coup, like this, these former, I think they were Green Berets, right? They did security for Trump at one point, and they made this mercenary group called Silver Corps, and then they tried to do a coup, the Bay of Piglets. You remember this happened last year? No? Or the fact that you have Juan Guaido being propped up by 60 countries, all at the behest of the United States. Well, a little less now because the EU doesn't recognize him anymore. But the UK and the US still do. That's not meddling. That's not interfering in the elections when you are like coming in and deciding, oh no, he's the interim president. We're going to decide for you. This guy's the interim president. We want him to take your place. Wow. I'd love to see what Venezuela's report about U.S. interference says. It's going to be a couple thousand pages long, to say the least. So, I mean, this is just a pile of fucking garbage. Wow. This is really something else. And, you know, the thing is here, if you look at the end, okay, they say that they're talking about their language used in the report and judgments of likelihood. So the chart below approximates how judgments of likelihood correlate with percentages, okay? Unless otherwise stated, the intelligence community's judgments are not derived via statistical analysis. Phrases as we judge and we assess and terms such as probably and likely convey an analytical assessment. So, I mean, I don't know what this even means. Is this like a disclaimer at the end where it says like, hey, if any of this turns out to be bullshit and you find out that it's bullshit, well, you know, you can't hold us responsible because we didn't say that it's true. We said likely, and that's like an 82.5% chance. It's got nothing to do with it. What is this? You're a fucking intelligence agency. You're the director of national intelligence. This is from the office of the director of national intelligence. You oversee 18 goddamn agencies. If you are not confident in what you're saying, who the fuck is confident then? It's your job to know this stuff. Actually, it's not. Their job is to push propaganda. This has a bunch of manure. Okay. And it's conflicting. It's a bit tough, right? Because, you know, even when they publish flat out lies, when they say things like Iraq has WMDs, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if it's true. The media will run with it. When they say that, oh, Venezuela and Hezbollah are interfering in our politics, it doesn't matter if it's true. Even in the report that they say Venezuela didn't interfere in the election, it doesn't matter. The media will report it as gospel and people will swallow the shit up, right? What a great distraction from all of Biden's shortcomings, and that's putting it mildly, right? What a great distraction. This jingoist bullshit, this xenophobic nonsense, the hypocrisy also. I mean, every single one of these countries on the list, the United States and the UK, by the way, they've tried to overthrow their governments. They've tried to interfere in their politics. That's their business. They do nothing else. And then they have the stones to publish crap like this. It's unbelievable. And, you know, it is, I don't know what to say, right? If you look at, for example, a few weeks ago when they published this report, again, from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, they published this report about the Saudi journalist Khashoggi, who was, you know, chopped up in the Saudi consulate in Turkey, in Istanbul. And he used to write for the Washington Post, and he was resident in the US. I mean, I don't even know what to do here, because when you look at that report, we all know it's true. Okay, not just from the US. We're not relying on the United States to tell us it's true. We know that the guy was, you know, killed under the direction of MBS, of Mohammed bin Salman. And again, I don't know about the names mentioned in the report, because they mentioned a bunch of accomplices who worked as his personal bodyguards and so forth, and people who are implicated in the operations. I don't know if those are accurate, but you know, there's definitely a lot of truth to that. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. Who's behind that? But then they go ahead and they publish crap like this, right? It's just like the devil, man. It's just like demons, you know. they mix truth with lies all the time. And ironically, this is, if you go and watch, you know, this CIA officer talking about how they would lie to the media, and I don't mean just with publications. I mean, they would develop relationships with the media. They would feed them truth and then, you know, feed them bullshit. And it's by feeding them truth, is by giving them real stories, that they would gain the trust. They would earn the trust of these journalists. And, you know, these journalists would then always bite, and they would come back for more. And then they'd give them false stories. And sometimes even overtly, right? They would develop a relationship so casual that it was just straight up like, yeah, this is not true, but I need you to put it out, whatever. So, I mean, yeah, this is a long-standing tradition. There's nothing surprising about that. But, you know, reminded me of that scene in The Exorcist, right? There's like, he's talking about how the demon is mixing truth with lies, and he says, there is only one. Oh, God. They're really sadistic, these people. And make no mistake, this report, this continuation of Russiagate, I made a joke. I made a joke that, you know, the only good thing is that if Biden wins, the only plus side is that we won't have to hear about Russiagate anymore. And I think Glenn is like, oh no, it's going to be there. Yeah, absolutely. And they're expanding it, right? You remember during the debates, even the presidential debates, Biden was saying, Iran, they're going to pay for interfering in our elections. And I'm going to be tough on China and Russia. Like straight, like he hasn't been elected yet and he's already like making threats. I mean, can you imagine if you're China or you're Russia or you're Iran and you're listening to that? Like, yeah, that's sure to promote a lot of diplomacy. They're just doing this to cover for Biden, right? He lied about the checks. 12 million Americans, millions of children, they got screwed over. They didn't get any relief from that. $15 minimum wage is gone. So now they're deflecting, right? It's just like with Netanyahu. You look at Israel. Every time there's some bullshit going on, the guy's being investigated for corruption. He's aligning himself with these far-right groups to try and secure deals so he can form a coalition and make sure he doesn't lose. Anytime there's something bad going on internally, all of a sudden, oh, look, Hezbollah, oh, look, we distract them with some kind of problem with the Arabs. It's the same thing here, right? Anytime there's some kind of they want to deflect from internal problems, they just start with the jingoist bullshit. They start with the xenophobia again. Yeah, the Democratic Party have become the McCarthyists. They've adopted that role gladly, and they need their ratings, right? I mean, Trump gave them a lot of good ratings. He saved a lot of them and their careers, and now they have to find other ways to continue the imperialism, the foreign intervention, the victimization, the maligning of other countries. And so they do shit like this. They just make this up, right? I'm telling you, just wait for it. They're going to put Syria next on this list of countries that allegedly interfered in American politics. Just wait for it, right? God, it never stops. So we have a couple of lovely super chats over here. Let me please read them for you. Over here, we have one from, actually, just give me a second. Let me pull them up for you so you can actually read them with me on the screen. That would be most delightful. By the way, speaking of Venezuela, I love that. What's that interview again with Maduro and Jorge? And he's telling him, Jorge, you're not a journalist. You know this. Jorge Ramos. Yeah, that shit was hilarious, man. That shit was really hilarious. And I made this point. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna straight up just show it to you because I think it's really funny. But I made this point the other day on Twitter. Here we go. So yeah, basically, whenever you have journalists, so-called journalists, going to interview, people that the United States considers part of the so-called axis of evil, they suddenly grow a pair. They suddenly grow a spine. They suddenly have balls. And they start talking in a way that you don't see usually, right? So you'll see this, again, I've completely forgotten his name, but in 2016, you had an NBC interview with Bashar al-Assad, and I forgot the host's name, but, he was very confrontational, right? And you look at Megyn Kelly, for example, when she goes to Russia, to Moscow to interview Putin, right? Or you look at here with Jorge Ramos when he's with Maduro. Just look at how he starts the interview, okay? And I think there are some pros and some to this style of interviewing. I'll get to that in a second, but just look at the first thing that comes out of his mouth, okay?
Reconocieron esa elección. Fue una elección en la que usted sabe, usted no es el presidente legítimo. Entonces, ¿cómo le llamo? Para ellos, usted es un...
Have you ever seen an interview like that? You know you're not a legitimate president. People call you a dictator. What should I call you? Yo, do you think Jorge Ramos would ever say that shit to any other Western, any other leader in the West? You fucking know the answer. You know he would not dare say that, right? He would never say that. Now, you could say that the pros this kind of talk. I think it's going a bit over the limit. You're not supposed to coddle politicians, but at the same time, if you look at the British style of interviewing, you remember, for example, Andrew Neil with Ben Shapiro. I mean, Ben Shapiro wouldn't last 2 minutes in the UK, right? And he literally didn't. He was shredded to pieces. Andrew Neil is a right winger. I mean, he's friends with Rupert Murdoch, who created Fox News. So I don't know how much more right wing you can get. And then Ben Shapiro got so, he cried like a baby and stormed off the set, and he called him a lefty. He called Andrew fucking Neil, who's one of the most notorious right-wing journalists in the UK, a lefty, because he did not understand that being asked adversarial questions from the opposing point of view is just a style of interviewing in the British in the British way of doing things. So I mean, you could argue that that's a good way to be tough during an interview. You pretend, or you speak as if you are on the opposite side of the argument. It's adversarial. Okay, I can understand that. And by the way, if you haven't seen that one with Andrew Neil, go watch it. But it's just interesting how they only do that. These journalists, they only do that when they're talking to foreign leaders, right? That the U.S. does not like. They won't do that to a French president, for example. They won't do that to a British prime minister. No, they'll do it to Bashar al-Assad. They'll do it to Maduro. They'll do it to Putin. But as soon as they go back to the U.S., they won't ever speak the same way to Joe Biden, for example, and not even the president, any politician, a senator or a congressperson. They won't speak to them that way. It's incredible. It's incredible. It really is, right? So, I mean, to be fair, you have seen some of them do it to Trump. To be fair, right? Which is like an exception, which it's the exception that confirms the rule. But anyway, I think it was really, I think it was really hilarious here how Maduro just like shreds him. That was just that was kind of hilarious, honestly.
Te contesto en el rol que tú asumes de militante de la oposición venezolana, de la extrema derecha. Para el público que tú sirves.
Tienen que escuchar el otro punto de vista también.
Yo lo escucho siempre, pero tú no estás como periodista aquí. Yo te asumo ante la oposición y estamos en un debate. Claro, tú eres extranjero.
Yo soy un periodista.
Tú eres extranjero, sirve. He aceptado tu entrevista porque sabía que iba a ser así, para responder a mucha gente, venezolanos que viven en los Estados Unidos y que se niegan a escucharnos, para que vean la realidad. Nosotros somos de verdad
legítimas.
Yeah, I mean, again, there are good arguments to be made for that style of interview, but I wish they do it at home, because they just don't. It is kind of funny though, if you see Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, when he does an interview, like the guy is very smart. He'll run circles around the guy interviewing him, right? He'll sit down, he'll argue and explain and everything, and do it that way. But Maduro is just straight up like, Jorge, you are not a journalist, okay? Just like fucking, oh my God. Again, I'd respect it if they did it to everyone. I'd respect it that way, because that's the way a British journalist would do it, usually. Okay? Now, again, not that Andrew Neil is exactly my cup of tea. I think he sits on the board of not Fox, but I can't remember. He's Rupert Murdoch, who owns like half of the fucking news corporations on this planet. Extremely right wing. As I said, he created Fox. Yeah, he's put Andrew Neil on a bunch of his on his payrolls, and it's just so hilarious that Ben Shapiro thought he's a lefty. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Anyway, so that was just a small thing I wanted to talk about. But anyway, again, I will get to all of your generous donations at the end, because I just want to go through the segments. So thank you for your patience and for staying here. Again, we're not done. We're going to keep going. And yeah, so let me talk about this fellow over here. This absolute G. So there's a Russian soldier who was killed in Syria in 2016, I believe, in 2016, and he sacrificed himself, and I want to read you a bit of his story over here because it's truly heroic, and I mean that in the true sense of the term. So today marks 5 years since Russian officer Alexander Prokhorenko sacrificed himself to liberate Syria, Palmyra, from ISIS terrorists. Not a fictional movie star, but a true modern-day Russian hero. He called an airstrike on his own position when surrounded by extremists. Okay, so he died on March 17th, 2016. So it's now 5 years and 1 day since. And he was awarded the title of Hero of Russia posthumously. That's the highest military decoration that you can get. It's like the equivalent of the Medal of Honor, right? And in the UK, the Victoria Cross. So, this guy's an absolute hero. I mean, he was, first of all, I'll get to Palmyra in a second, but he was surrounded by ISIS, by Daesh, and, he knew there's no way out, and he just called an airstrike on himself. He sacrificed himself, literally, and killed all the approaching terrorists. And, I mean, it doesn't get more heroic than that. You look at the United States, you look at the United Kingdom, who pretend to be fighting ISIS, who are still occupying Iraq under this pretext. They helped create these conditions that gave rise to ISIS, to Daesh. They they are at the root of Al-Qaeda to begin with in the first place, and all of its offshoots. We talked about that earlier, and the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, and it's just interesting how the United States creates these wars, creates this mess, and then look at what the Russians are doing, right? So they want to feed you this propaganda. Oh yeah, the Russians, they just bomb hospitals, and they're just helping the Assad regime to bomb hospitals. I always found that interesting, because Bashar al-Assad is a doctor, so on top of being a president, I don't understand why a doctor would be bombing hospitals. Anyway, but they want to feed you this narrative that Russia is evil, right? I mean, first of all, Russia is in Syria legally, right? They've been formally invited by the Syrian government to help. And were they not, I mean, Syria would be under control of ISIS right now, honestly. And if Iran, Hezbollah hadn't helped, same thing. So they're in Syria legally. The United States is not in Syria legally. The United States is an invader, an illegal invader, just like the United Kingdom. They have no fucking business being in Syria. And on top of that, they're stealing the oil. They're holding hostage all the crops. And so this guy's a real hero. Like, I just want to show you this contrast of what the United States and the UK do and then what the Russians do. Like, this guy's 25 when he died, right? So he's, now I'm older than him, I guess, right? So, like, as we say in Arabic, like, right? Like, no one, he didn't have to come and do that, and he did that nonetheless. That's a true hero, and huge respect to him, honestly, huge respect to him. And I want to tell you why Palmyra is important. So again, his name is Alexander Prokhorenko. I hope I'm saying that correctly, and this guy's a real hero. And just to give you some background about Palmyra, which is where he died, and he was helping to liberate it. So, Palmyra is, it's an ancient city in the desert in Syria, and it's really old, like 3000 BC old. Okay, so, give or take 5,000 years old. And I've been there as a kid, and it's heartbreaking what ISIS did to it. I mean, they turned a UNESCO World Heritage Site into, they're savages. They're absolute savages. So look what they did. This is Palmyra, right? This is the Roman archway. That's like, you instantly recognize that it's Palmyra from this Roman archway. They blew it up. ISIS blew this up. They blew up the gate of Palmyra. These motherfuckers. I mean, just think how long that shit has survived. Like, think how many people how many invaders that archway has survived. The French, and by extension the Nazis, the Vichy French. It's survived the Ottomans. I mean, it survived thousands of years. And then these motherfuckers that are funded by the West, they come and blow this up. I mean, that's not an attack on Syria only. That's an attack on our collective human history. Truly. And you remember when Trump said he wants to bomb Iran's cultural sites? Iran has like 40 UNESCO World Heritage sites. I mean, he's no different from ISIS. Like, he's that level of barbarism. And so this is Palmyra, right? Truly like some magical oasis in the desert. And there's also a museum in there, okay? This is the museum, and this is what ISIS did to it. They fucking ransacked it. So I remember being in there. I've been inside this museum when I was a kid. Look at that. Look at this bullshit. I mean, I can't even, I don't even know. I don't even know the value of that. These things have no value. You can't put a price tag on that. They're invaluable. They're priceless. Do you understand? They don't have a tangible value like, oh, it's a $3 million Picasso. No, this is beyond that. These things are thousands of years old. Do you understand how priceless this stuff is? And a lot of this ends up on the black market, just like with Iraq. Iraq has also been pillaged, right? Not just invaded and all the people killed. They pillaged it. I mean, you have a whole trade of antiques being sold, things that date back to the Babylonian Empire. And just like I said, Palmyra is 3,000 years old. You have so many things here, you had Queen Zenobia, for example, who was ruling at one point. Then you have the Romans as well. It's priceless. And these savages destroyed it. And there's a Roman amphitheater there. I mean, this is one of the best. So this theater is one of the best preserved in the world. And you used to have ballets being held there, right? And then ISIS turned it into a place to hold public executions. I mean, just think of how heartbreaking that is. It's just disgusting. And they even killed the director of the museum. This guy, right? Khalid Assad, I think I'm saying his name correctly, I hope so. He's 82, beheaded by militants outside the museum where he worked for more than 50 years, looking after the city's ancient artifacts. And apparently they held him hostage for a month. They tried to find out more about the treasures, the hidden treasures of the city and things like that. I'm assuming so they could sell it off and make money, just like they've been pillaging the oil. And he refused to tell them. And they just cut his head off and hung him from a Roman column. I'm speechless. Like I don't know what to say, honestly. So these guys are heroes, right? These guys are heroes. When we talk about Prohorenko, this guy's a hero. He helped liberate Palmyra. And the director of the museum, he's also a hero. Khalid Assad, he's a hero. And it's just horrifying what they did. And, they want to come here and tell you again that, oh, this is an uprising, right? If you go and read CNN, you go and read the Independent, pick whatever mainstream outlet you want. Oh, no, it's just an uprising. It's a revolution. It's just a revolution, No, it's not like, ISIS grew out of the invasion of Iraq and, was subsidized by all these Western governments and these jihadists just running. Well, no, of course not. That never happened, no. And then, I think, where was this? This is in front of this is in Trafalgar Square in London. They erected a replica of this archway, this Roman archway that was destroyed. And I mean, what's the fucking point? Like, what? Okay, great, but maybe next time Britain should just not fucking interfere in Syria and cause the destruction of this in the first place by, helping to bring in fighters and arms and give support to these fucking extremist nut jobs. Then you won't have to make a replica, and we could actually preserve history. How about that? No? what do you expect from the British? I mean, you go to the British Museum, it's just it's literally just a collection of looted and stolen artifacts. The same in the Louvre, right? All of it. It's crazy, honestly. By the way, this is very interesting. If you look here, this eagle over here, you know, it looks especially Roman, yeah, and it's quite incredible how well preserved it is, right? It's incredible, but you do have some other things as well. If you look over here, they say this is from the temple of Baal Shamin, and this was a title applied to different gods at different places or times in ancient Middle Eastern inscriptions, especially in Phoenicia and Syria. The title was most often applied to Haddad, who was also titled just Baal Shamin, one of the two supreme gods and the sky god of pre-Islamic Palmyra in ancient Syria. If you remember, Haddad is the rain god we talked about, like, you know, the Umayyad mosque. Before that, it was a church. Before that, it was a Roman temple to Jupiter. I think it was also Greek at one point. It was a Greek temple. And then originally, it was a temple for Haddad. And I had no clue that, you look at that eagle and you're like, that's Roman, right? And, well, it turns out that goes back even further. So, I mean, again, Palmyra is right on Silk Road. I'm talking the original Silk Road. You know, people come from China. This is a famous trade route on top of all the other glorious history it has. And just seeing how they've destroyed the amphitheater. They blew it up, by the way. They didn't just hold, I keep saying amphitheater or just theater. You know, they held executions there. They also blew it up and destroyed it. There's a before and after photo from bird's eye view, which is heartbreaking to look at. They killed the museum director. They blew up I mean, what is this destruction, right? What is this kind of bullshit? This is their revolution. This is the revolution. This is democracy, really. So, yeah, speaking of Prokorenko, they exchanged six militants for his body to return his body to Russia. And again, this is back, I think this is a year afterwards. Sorry, no, this is a few months afterwards in 2016, right? So from March until December. And he was given a nickname. People called him Russian Rambo, right? I think hero is adequate. I mean, there you go. And, you know, they gave him a full military, they gave him a military burial with full honors and everything. So, yeah, it's quite heroic what he did. And I'm glad they liberated Palmyra. So, you know, that's again, I don't think that you can, the real casualties of the Syrian war are the civilians, first and foremost. And but nonetheless, it is sickening to see what's happened to, like, you know, priceless history. I think it's not just like Syrian history; it's collective human heritage, and you know, effectively that's why it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Like, this is our shared human history, and these savages, they just come and destroy the shit. And then, you know, they don't tell you that, of course, right? There's just one narrative. Oh, Syria bad, Russia bad, and America good. And, you know, don't talk about the fact that ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all these terrorists were, you know, they sprung up in the conditions created by Western intervention. And of course, they were originally also funded and financed and trained and aided and abetted by these very same governments who pretend to be delivering democracy. And if you go again, once again, this is why WikiLeaks is so good. You go and read the cables. You know, they knew that they were the Americans. They knew that they could fuel sectarian violence. And again, that's what happened in Iraq. They knew they could fuel sectarian violence in order to overthrow the Syrian government, right? And people want to come here and then tell you, oh, there's no regime change. It's just an uprising. Oh man, we've seen this movie many times before in many countries. Okay. And of course, Iraq has suffered lots of similar losses, as I mentioned. You know, there's a whole trade, black market trade of stolen antiquities and things like that. So yeah. With that said, let me please get to your super chats. I believe you guys have been waiting, and I definitely want to make sure I read all of them. So let me just scroll up over here on Rockfin. Okay, so let me pull this up so you guys can actually read it. Give me 1 second. Wonderful. So I think you should be able to see that now. So I'm just going to scroll up over here. Francis says Biden won because Putin was really bad at interfering in U.S. elections. So sad. Yeah, basically, if we take them at their word. Carolyn or Caroline again, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, says another source of truth I follow. Hold on, I got to scroll back up over here. Another source of truth I follow is Jason Burmas. I'd love to hear the two of you discuss these critical issues. Our freedom depends on it. I think he's also on Rockfin, right? Or am I mistaken? Yeah, man. I mean, the thing is, even in independent media and on Rockfin and just in general, like I feel these things are kind of underreported, and people. It's lovely to see other people covering this in with truth, and that's the reason why you have all these so-called journalists in the New York Times and other places attacking Substack, attacking alternative news media, because they don't want to see people actually talking truth and countering their bullshit. And people have had enough, right? So I'm always glad to go on anyone's show and talk about Syria, of course, and everything else. Aeon, I think I'm saying that correctly, says I think most of the mainstream media is now aware that no one under the age of 50 actually thinks they are about anything but propaganda. Yeah, so that's kind of building off of what I just said. Yeah, absolutely, and that's driving them nuts, because people who work in independent media are not beholden to corporate bullshit, and that it drives them nuts because people are starting to wake up. Absolutely. Hold on, let me just scroll up over here because I think I missed some of them. I missed some of your comments, guys. So, John Casey says Turks obliterated the Assyrians of northeastern Syria and Armenians of what's now northeastern Turkey between 1915 and 1922 in two parallel genocides, with Kurd tribes to the fore as instruments of murder for the Turks. And now it's as if Kurds are Turks' mortal enemies, but I suppose it depends on whether you're PKK, SDF supported by the US, so Syrian Democratic Forces, or not, in circumstances where PKK is classified as terrorists by Washington. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot to say about the Armenian genocide, and that I'm going to have a special guest on very soon. We're going to talk more about Turkey and their role in that. So, because it's a very important topic, and yeah, it's very important that you pointed out the parallel genocide, because they've also ethnically cleansed, as you mentioned, the Assyrian population, and you're seeing a continuation of that now. Also, the fact that northern Syria, northeastern Syria, but especially in Idlib in northern Syria, where you have these 12 Turkish outposts and Turkish troops occupying there. I mean, it's not just them, but you've had Christian minorities, Assyrians. Yeah, they're being ethnically cleansed again. I mean, it's completely messed up, and you're never going to hear about that, right? So again, thanks for bringing that up. And No Gods over here says, just came over from FedTube. Wow, Rockfin allows 400 character messages for $2. See? Another reason why y'all should be on Rockfin. Way better bang for your buck. Come on over, FedTubers. Fuck censorship. Shout out to Fiorella Isabel, Pasta Jardula, and Jonathan Majorca of the Convo Couch. I love them, for protesting in DC against the criminalization of press freedom and the corporate silencing of the left. Absolutely. And again, I think, so Sophie, she sent me over that flyer. I hope I was able to plug it enough. again, today on the 17th, they had these, I loved seeing that, like this coalition of protests, right? You got the Free Assange protest, you got the fuck censorship protest. And this is what I want to see. This is it, baby. Direct action, coalitions. And it's really good. It's beautiful. I wish I could have been there. There's no way to travel to the US from Europe, so I can't. But, you know, probably wouldn't let me in anyway as a Syrian. So, but yeah, I'm there. I'm with them. They're in spirit, and you know, shout out to them, of course. Combo Couch, they're also on Rockfin. You should definitely subscribe to them if you haven't already. And they also got hit by the censorship bullshit, right? Which shows you what big tech thinks of indie media. And yeah, Nico as well got hit by it. They're unbelievable. So over here we got over on YouTube. Let me read your super chats. Thank you guys for being so generous. Sam K says, please do a show with Miko Pellet on your channel. Another guest, Theo Spadnos, he freelances for the New York Times. He wrote a book about being kidnapped in 2013 by the moderates, and how this, from the start, there were no moderate rebels. That actually, I've had Miko on my television show, but not on YouTube. I'm sure he'd be glad to come on again. I wanted to have a longer, sit down with him anyway. He's really cool. And Theo Spadnos, I need to definitely get on as well. So thank you for that. And yeah, man, I mean, if people ain't going to believe, the obvious truth, then they need to hear it from him, right? Having dealt with them firsthand. Yeah, it's this rebranding, this remarketing of Al-Qaeda as moderate rebels. It's just fucking... you can't make it up, right? It's unbelievable. And it's not surprising, again. Even you see how Reagan with the Mujahideen, although to be fair, I mean, if you're fighting occupation, you're fighting occupation. But they use them as pawns. And, they were also calling them freedom fighters. And then just a few years later, like, oh, they're so brutal, we have to come overthrow them. Make up your minds, right? So over here, we got one from Gregory. Hold on, can I put up the super chats for you? I want to put them up for you so you can actually read them with me. I think that would be better. Because they might have disappeared off at the thing. Give me 1 second. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so... Actually, no, you can't see them. I'm just going to have to read them blind for you. So Gregory says, it's utterly despicable that the EU insists on imposing sanctions on Syria when 60% of the population were children at the time the war began, and under 14. Yeah. So, I mean, as we said, 60% of the population are under 24 now. And as you said, 10 years ago, 2011, that means they were 14, right? And again, right now you have 30% that are under 14. Like, it's mostly kids, dude. And I mean, even if they weren't kids, it's like you shouldn't be starving civilians for, I mean, what is that? But it just makes it even worse that they have all this internalized trauma and God knows what else. And it's just, it really shows you they have no humanity. You look at Madeleine Albright saying like, yeah, she thinks it was worth it to starve 500,000 Iraqi children with sanctions. She said that in an interview. I've played the clip for you, right? They don't care. They just don't care. They have no soul, these people. And then they claim that they're against brutal dictators who kill their own people. Motherfucker, you're killing the Syrian people. It's you. Right? It's so easy for them to bomb, to sanction, and then say, oh, look, it's the Venezuelan government, it's the Syrian government killing their own people. No, it's you. You're doing that. Unfucking real. And of course the EU goes along right with them, of course. And by the way, someone the other day was saying, what about criticizing the UN? Hey, those sanctions that killed, which you just talked about, which killed 500,000 Iraqi children? The UN imposed those fucking sanctions. So yeah. And what's the point when you have a so-called international body that is controlled by, 5 people with permanent seats, and among them imperialists, right? You got France, UK, and of course the great Satan. No, I don't think they should have permanent fucking seats. No one should. No, thank you. So yeah, we got a lot to say. DC says CNN equals capitalist narrative network MSNBC mindlessly shilling narratives by capitalists. Hey man, add that to the list of the acronyms. I had some I had some better ones, and I can't remember it all. I think BBC, some British bullshit corporation. Yeah, they're all playing on the same team, man. No doubt whatsoever. And CNN is one of the worst. I mean, like you saw, they're still to this day pushing the propaganda. The New York Times, for example, they've still never corrected what they said about Duma, right? You remember they had this 3D model of the chemical gas attack and like where the cylinder was? Motherfucker. The team leader, the goddamn scientists, the fucking inspectors who went there, whose job it is to inspect the goddamn site, said that it was placed manually. Are you more qualified than them? Where is your correction? Where is your fucking correction? How can you lie about something like that? Gregory says Syria is the hinge of the Middle East. You know it. Again, I don't think we should be quoting Henry Kissinger in any capacity, but I think one of you reminded me of a quote he said. What was it again? Like, you can't make war in the Middle East without Egypt, and you can't make peace without Syria. That's facts. So you know it, guys. Sam K says, about Bahrain. I read that before. Cam 35mm says, got my stim check today. Would have given you more, but Uncle Joe stole 600 of it in order to buy bombs to bomb Syria. No worries. I appreciate the donation nonetheless. Don't worry about it. At least it's lining the pockets of Raytheon, right? We can all sleep well at night now. Check zero list. There's no note, but I appreciate your donation. Thank you for your support. And Gemini Socialist says, thanks, Richard, for such a great show tonight. What was your experience like growing up with two different cultures? Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And that's a great question. Well, hold on a second. I don't know what I just clicked over here. Okay. Well, I mean, I'd say it's more than two cultures. I'd say, because I went to a French school, so you obviously have that French culture daily, every single day. And I grew up in a bunch of several countries, a few years in Pakistan, Switzerland, Austria, so several ones. But I mean, I'm assuming you're talking mostly about British and Syrian. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's I think just the fact that you're able to speak those languages and then kind of understand the mentality of those cultures and also enjoy their art, right? For example, I listen to a lot of French rap. I would not understand shit if I did not speak French. I would not have even discovered probably that world of music, right? Without speaking French. So that's a really good thing. I think that understanding what's happening in the Middle East, it's really important. Having been born there and spent a lot of time there, and having both parents kind of instill in you not just like values of those cultures, but just generally the practices, the customs. So you can kind of assimilate with both. It's not like you don't know how to act in one or something. No, you just feel at home with both. I think that's a really good thing. I don't know. It's good. But if I can be honest, if I can be perfectly honest, I think in some regards there's one disadvantage to that. It's that you're gonna have something. Again, I think I've asked you guys this question before, but for those of you who are mixed race, or maybe biracial or métis, or you're from two different backgrounds, you also encounter sometimes situations where you don't feel accepted by either one. Not always. It's just sometimes, and that can be uncomfortable because it's like, it's just weird, and I don't know, but that I'd say that's the only disadvantage. But it's not something that regularly happens, right? I think it's just that's the only con, I would say, the only negative for it. And I'm sure some of you who understand what I'm talking about, maybe will sound off in the comments. But yeah, I mean, in general, it's good. It really broadens your horizons. I know that's such a cliche term, but it really does. And yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's good. And I'd say it's more than two cultures, right? Because again, the living in other countries, and yeah, that kind of helps. So I'm glad you enjoyed the show as well. Thank you for that, Gemini Socialist. Bruce Davis says, thumbs up right back at you. Thank you very much. Sam Case is, again, I read it, and definitely I want to get Miko Peled back on here for sure. Again, if you haven't seen when I interviewed him, this was with Chris Williamson, former Labour MP, and this was the episode about Jeremy Corbyn. So just Google Richard Medhurst, Jeremy Corbyn. You'll find when I sat down with Miko Peled and Chris Williamson. It was great. They're really cool guys. They're really interesting, really smart. They understand what's up, and it's really good talking to them. Sam Case's video for New York Times on Duma worked for Bellingcat. Do you mean the person who took the video? Or what do you mean exactly? But yeah, I mean, they plugged it for sure. In general, I know that to this day, they're still selling that bullshit, right? And it's not the only one. If there are other instances like, Christ, what's the name of that place again? Khan Sheikhun, I think. Yeah, I mean, there's several incidents there where they also claim that there was a chemical gas attack, and again, it's just fucking made up. I'm not too well versed with that one as I am with the Duma one from 2018, but the one in Khan Sheikhun, they did it's just the data doesn't line up. There were no Syrian aircraft there at the time when they say this bombing happened. It's just, it doesn't matter. This is what you guys need to understand. They can just make up shit and the media will run with it. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. They don't care about facts. They talk about Trump and his lies and all this shit and disinformation and foreign disinformation. They do this for a living. Their entire job is to interfere in the politics of other countries and to spread fucking lies and propaganda. They do that for a living. That's their job, right? Not to, let's not kid ourselves. Trump, he participated in it too, right? He participated in it too. Just proved to be another, another cuck for Washington, D.C. That's what it was. So there you go. So I think we got another tip over here from Francis says independent. Oh, Adam would like me to check Cash App. Thanks to him. My bad. I don't get any notifications on here. I totally missed that. So you'll have to excuse me. Yeah, you guys have been sending stuff on Venmo and Cash App. Thank you so much. I'm going to read those too. I completely forgot. My apologies. So I got one over here from Adam. He says, Syria, hashtag free Assange. I love you, man. Thank you so much. See, I think Cash App allows you to say Syria. That's a plus. And of course, Venmo and PayPal, they're being a bunch of bitches. So, over here, we got one from Cinema Gorilla says, love for you, my brown king. And it's a bunch of Syria emojis. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Slamli Habibi. And over here, we got one from Claudia on Venmo says, fuck the Yankee imperialists. Solidarity forever. 100%. You know it. Aiden on Venmo says, I've seen posts on minds.com that theorize that the Mossad are responsible for troll farms that disrupt populism in America. Any opinions on the matter? This is actually an interesting topic. I'm not too familiar with that exactly about sowing distrust in the U.S. However, I was talking the other day with someone about troll farms, right? And yeah, Israel has troll farms. Like they even publicize that shit. Like you would see photographs. I forgot the name of the program, but you basically, they have computer rooms. Like, at school, like, everyone sits on like a fucking PC and you got like 25 computers and they spend their time online just like spreading pro-Israel bullshit, or like trolling people who say anything against Israel. That's a troll farm. I mean, that's what they accused Russia of doing. And it's like, it's no problem with it, right? It's like no one even brings that up or questions it. Fucking insane, man. And that's not to mention their whole cyber, warfare stuff, which is much more serious. Stuxnet, for example, that's much more serious. But I'm just talking about troll farms specifically. Yeah, they do that. That's the thing. And it's like totally normal. Like, yeah, of course we have, people that are correcting bad opinions about beloved Israel. Of course, it's normal. It's insane, man. It's nuts. Hold on, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss nobody. But I need to check that out about what they're doing in the U.S. I mean, I don't know about that, but they definitely, they get their way in the U.S. They don't. I feel like, because I was just thinking about this earlier with the PPP money, right? How you got this Friends of Israel, so-called charity that got 2.5 million small business money. Like the fucking balls, honestly, of them just doing that. By the way, I wanted to issue a correction. Okay, I wanted to issue a small correction. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm just gonna go to the toilet real quick, and I'll be right back. Thank you so much for your donations. I'm just gonna put up the screen over here real quick. We'll be right back. All right, just 1 sec. Don't go nowhere. All right, we are back. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for tuning in. So, thank you for your donations. I will continue reading them in a second. I just wanted to issue a very tiny correction regarding. Yeah, I just wanted to issue a tiny correction in regards to how the Democrats screwed you with this America relief plan. Okay, so basically, the other day, America Rescue Plan, by the way, it's called. Yeah, so the other day we were talking about how they passed this relief bill without the minimum wage, the $15 minimum wage. They passed it by with lowering the eligibility, right? They threw around 12 million Americans off of it. I think they raised it to $80,000. Yeah, so the checks phase out at around $80,000 if per year, if that's your salary. And they also they lied about the checks, right? So it was $2,000 originally, and then it's $1,400. And you know, there's I gave you the wrong vote count. Okay, so I gave you the vote count from when it first passed the House. Okay, so let me show it to you on the screen. So the final roll call, it was 220 to 211. All right, not 219, 212. Okay, this one 219 to 212. This is when it first passed the House. Okay. All right. So this one, here we go. This was on the 27th of February, 219 to 212. And my point was that, you know, you could have held up this bill. If Democrats wanted to, they could have held up this bill. That's a difference of 7 votes, right? My point still stands, but I want to give you the right number, which is over here, 220 to 211. Okay? Because it doesn't change anything. That's still a difference of 9 votes. Okay? So, again, 27th of February, they passed the American Rescue Plan Act. This contained the $15 minimum wage, right? It was in there. It goes to the Senate, and the Senate amends it. They did like something like 400, 500 amendments or something ridiculous. And they removed the $15 minimum wage, right? Apparently, Joe Manchin, senator from West Virginia, has more power than Joe Biden, right? Who, again, Joe Biden did not even bother lobbying him and trying to convince him to vote for it with the $15 minimum wage. Joe Manchin's like, yo, you keep the $15 minimum wage in this, I'm not voting for it. And it's not going to pass because no Republicans are voting for this. Okay? So the whole thing hinges on him voting for it. Incredible, right? He won't use the bully pulpit. He won't use his power as president, you know, this most powerful office in the world, to twist one senator's arm. No, he's not going to do it. So the Senate removes the $15 minimum wage. It goes back to the House. It goes back to the House. And they pass it. 10th of March, on motion to concur in the Senate amendment. So basically, this thing went back to the House, minus the $15 minimum wage, and they all voted for it. They all voted for it, right? Look at them. Ocasio-Cortez, she voted for it. Yeah. Ilhan Omar voted for it. Jamal Bowman. And we got, of course, Cori Bush. And remember, you remember what AOC said? You can use leverage to push for things that can happen and change lives. Like a $15 minimum wage vote in the first 100 days. Doable. So she lied about Medicare for All. She said, no, we can't force the vote. We can't hold Nancy Pelosi We can't hold Nancy Pelosi's re-election, her speakership re-election, hostage. We can't leverage that against her in order to force her to force a vote on Medicare for all, right? Said, no, we can't do that. It's not a good idea. We can do that later, like when Biden is elected and, in the first 100 days, then we can play hardball. Then we can, put our foot down to get a $15 minimum wage passed. So again, it was in there at first. It goes to the Senate removes it. It comes back to the House and they all vote for it without the $15 minimum wage. What the fuck is this? Why didn't you do this? You said you were going to do this crap. You said you can use leverage to push for things that can happen and change lives, like a $15 minimum wage in the first 100 days. Guys, remind me real quick. What is that called again when a politician says something and then does something else? What is that called again? What is that? You fucking lied. You're a liar. That is a fucking lie. Look, the receipts are right there. You fucking lied. You said you were going to use your leverage to push for $15 minimum wage. And then what did you do? You fucking voted for this bill without the $15 minimum wage. You could have put your foot down. Look, you only needed 9 votes. You only needed 9 votes to hold up this bill. 9 of you could have done this. You could have twisted Joe Biden's arm instead of Joe Manchin. Your whole strategy was we have to get progressives elected so they can do this, so they can form a bloc, put their foot down, and go head to head with Democrats, not Republicans. Any old schmuck can do that to Republicans. We don't need you to do that. No, you were sent to play hardball. Where is it? Where is it? Why the fuck did you vote for this bill without the $15 minimum wage? What is wrong with you? But again, they did the same shit in December, right? With the $600 check, the crumbs, the insult that they gave you at the end of the year. They did the same shit. People are like, oh no, they didn't vote for that. No, you're a liar. Oh my God, how fucking dare you? Isn't that embarrassing? Isn't that embarrassing of you? You can't even check the fucking roll calls, man. They voted no on the omnibus with the military budget in it. You want to give them credit for that? Great. But when it came to the bill that did not include the defense budget, meaning just the $600 crumbs, they voted for that shit. Right? Except who again didn't vote for it? I think it was Tulsi Gabbard, Rashida Tlaib. Right? They're the only two who didn't vote for it because it's insulting. Because those are crumbs, it's not enough. And then even Donald Trump comes and outlefts you and he's like, I want to give $2,000, not $600. How embarrassing is that? So, and again, with Nancy Pelosi, they fucking snuck in through the back door, like literally. They weren't there at first, and it was like, oh my God, you see, look, they're such heroes. They're not voting for Pelosi, and then they all of them, every single one of them, Cori Bush, Bowman, all of them, they came and fucking voted for Pelosi. Oh God, these people just love getting cucked, right? They love finding fucking justifications for this shit. These are Democrats, right? These are Democrats now. They're not progressive. No, they're Democrats. They are providing cover for the Democratic Party. They're just shit talkers. That's it. They're liars. Look, I brought receipts. Are you going to deny the receipts? This is the receipt. Look, it's not some vague kind of reference. She is literally saying we are going to use leverage to push for things that can happen and change lives, like a $15 minimum wage vote in the first 100 days. I mean, down to the goddamn letter, she's referring to this scenario, and she fucking lied. She did not put her foot down. She did not use the leverage. None of them did. Not one of those motherfuckers did. How many times does this need to happen before it gets through your head that they're playing with you? How many times? What kind of an opposition is this? This is bullshit. In the UK, just to give you a contrast, when they were trying to, they were getting the spy cops bill through, right? To let undercover police become criminals. Like it literally says in the bill, I covered this with you, it gives them criminal authorizations to act like criminals in the name of policing. The Labour Party, okay, which is now headed by Keir Starmer whipped everyone in line. He said, you're going to abstain, which is essentially just let it go through because all the Tories are going to vote yes for it. And you had 36 members of parliament in the Labour Party who defied him. They defied the whip. They're like, screw you. We are voting against this crap. By principle, just 36 people. It's not going to make a difference. By principle, they fucking voted against it. And, you know, some of them got suspended because, you know, some people have a backbone, some of them. Where is the backbone here? This is gaslighting. I mean, like the quintessential example. They taking you for suckers, man. Taking you for suckers. And what's outrageous is they could have actually made a fucking difference here. They actually had the numbers. It's razor thin. You just needed 9 people to do it. 9. And what do? They turn around and frame it as a win. A win. You call this a win. You can't deliver on your core policies. You call that a win. You have a sleazeball, war criminal, Joe Biden, a Democrat in the White House. You control the White House. You control the Senate just barely. You control the House. And you call that a win. No, this is bullshit. This is pathetic. This is you lying. You're liars. You fucking lied. Right there. Receipts. You lied. You said one thing and then you did another. You voted for that shit. You voted for it minus the $15 minimum wage. No. I'm not buying it. Sorry. No. So I just wanted to issue a small correction about the votes tally, right? So I swapped them around. That's what it is. Again, my point still stands. I told you the same thing last time. My point still stands. They're taking you for fools. What excuse do you have for this? There's no excuse. And if you want to come along here and say, well, look, man, they had to get this relief out. They needed to give these $1,400 checks to the people. What? You've been saying that since the beginning. You said that to justify giving the corporations $2 fucking trillion last year. Every single time you say that. How much relief have you gotten so far? 3 checks? 3 checks in a year? That's not relief. You're being robbed. You're being given crumbs and lied to. And they're marketing it to you as relief. It's not relief. They're robbing you. They voted to give trillions to corporations. Did you get trillions? If you got trillions, maybe you should fucking tell us. And then I'll believe you that that's relief. If you did not get trillions, that's not relief. Okay? The corporations got trillions. You got jack shit. Donald Trump has given you more than this. That fucking clown gave you more than Biden up till now. You call that relief? Have some self-respect, man. And again, with these goddamn legislation names, American Rescue Plan, it's every time, whenever you read the name of a bill, just assume the opposite. And not assume, it's literally the opposite. It's not an assumption. It's just, it's newspeak. It's double speak. It's the opposite, right? It's not rescuing. It's here, go drown. These people are criminals. They are truly criminals. I mean, it's a cesspit of a party. It's really despicable. So, Carolyn, thank you so much for your tips. Says, I love your perspective. Bill Nye, the highest guy, says, TV show and an online show. Just get a comedy act together and you're the Lee Camp of Europe. Hey, man, every day is comedy with these fucking clowns in DC and Whitehall. So, you know, you know it. But I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And Lee Camp is, of course, awesome. And I really appreciate your tips. Here we got one from Mahad. Am I saying it correctly? He says, "Yo, Richie, Jayapal is introducing Medicare for All finally to the House. Thoughts on it? I know it has no chance of passing the Senate, and even if it does by some miracle, Biden will veto it, like the cuck he is. Your thoughts on this? Much love, Habibi. Salam. Slemli." the thing is with Jayapal, she is the author of the Medicare for All bill in the House originally, just as Bernie Sanders is in the Senate, right? So this is what's interesting, right? And this plays into what I just said now. When I'm talking about them putting their foot down, right, on this American Rescue Plan, again with these names, I'm not just talking about the $15 minimum wage, right? I'm saying that's the bare minimum. I'm showing you that they're lying to you. It's a fucking lie. Like, they're flat out lying. Of course, they could have said we want Medicare for all in there as well, right? Because they already told you, no, we can't do that in December because, we have to, we can't do that. No, we'll do it later. Okay, where is it? Where is it? You could have asked for both the $15 minimum wage. You could have asked for Medicare for all. No, none of it. They didn't even do the bare minimum. Like, that was in the goddamn bill. It was in the bill. They sent it to the Senate. The Senate's like, no, we're taking this out. Here, take it back. And you fucking vote for it? What is wrong with you? Why would you do that? You could have put your foot down. So when it comes to Jayapal, I'm not aware. I'm not aware that she's reintroduced it now into the House. Give me a second over here, because I know that she's already done this before, right? Here, I see it. Let me just read this 1 second to you guys. Okay, let me pull this up. Thank you by the way, because so this is from 3 hours ago. So I hadn't seen this yet. Let me pull it up. And by the way, if I can just say something before I forget with Jayapal, she called this a win. What happened now with this passing of the rescue plan? And one thing that I don't understand is she's the head of the Progressive Caucus, right? The Congressional Progressive Caucus. She should technically be able to whip people into the line. She's never willing to do that, right? It's like all of this is just for show. Unfortunately, it's heartbreaking, right? Because I don't know. I don't think that these people are inherently evil. It's just they don't know what is going on. Like, are they being threatened? Blink twice if you're being threatened, man. Like, tell us, do something, because this is not it. This is not it. Because effectively, at the end of the day, they're just herding people back into the party. They're playing games. This is unacceptable. Hold on, is this the right tab? I don't think it is. Give me a second. Here we go. So Jayapal introduces Medicare for All Act of 2021 alongside more than half of House Democratic Caucus after millions lose health care during a pandemic. Okay, so they say that it's going to guarantee healthcare to everyone as a human right by providing comprehensive benefits, including primary care, vision, dental, prescription drugs, mental health, long-term services and supports, reproductive health care, and more, with no co-pays, private insurance premiums, deductibles, or other cost sharing. That's good. They have mental health in there. That's very good. And hold on. I don't know what I just clicked on. Excuse me. So they're saying this is not just Jayapal, it's also Debbie Dingell, okay? They've reintroduced the Medicare for All Act of 2021. And look at that. I mean, this is stunning. Nearly 100 million people are uninsured or underinsured. This is stunning. I mean, even before it was stunning, even if you had 1 million, it's like, what the hell is that? 100 million? Jesus Christ. This is embarrassing, not to mention degrading and inhumane, right? So they're saying that it's being reintroduced, they're introduced into the House of Representatives 1 year to the day that the COVID-19 virus was first confirmed in all 50 states, okay? And they're saying that they want a solution to this health crisis. Okay, well, look, man, I mean, this is something that you do, decades ago. Again, I told you, for example, most European countries, most allies of the United States, right? They're not communists. Ooh, communists. So I said the scare word. They've done this decades ago. If you're so concerned about, people's healthcare during a pandemic, you should have done this on day one. Why did you wait a year to the day? I'm so confused by this. If you were so concerned, you had an opportunity now with a must-pass bill. You could have had Joe Biden by his cojones. You could have grabbed by his fucking nuts and said, you put Medicare for all in there or else. of course, as you said, he's going to veto it. We know. But again, these are not ideals. I'm showing you how they say one thing and do another thing. If you come to me and you say, like, look, there are 60,000 people dying every year because they don't have healthcare, which is true. You have an opioid epidemic. You have a male suicide epidemic. You have a coronavirus pandemic. You have a lot of public health issues here, right? This is just a few of them. So you understand the urgency of this. So why are you waiting so long to do this? Why are you not like showing some kind of, why aren't you playing hardball a little? I don't know. I think that if I were pushing Medicare for all, I would never tell you to go vote for Biden, who says he's going to veto it. That's already a contradiction in of itself. And I don't expect this to go anywhere, unfortunately. I really don't. Again, they act like they understand, and then, okay, what next? By the way, this plays into what I said also before, not just about the America Rescue Plan, but if you look at, for example, this talk about climate change and the Green New Deal and fracking specifically, who is it again? Jake Tapper. He asks, I think it was Jake Tapper. He asks AOC, like, you push for the Green New Deal. Joe Biden, he's saying he's not going to ban fracking. What are you going to do about that? I'm paraphrasing. And she says, it's going to be my privilege to lobby him. Okay, well, where's this lobbying going on? Yeah, there's nothing. Like, what are they doing? What's happening? What's going on here? Again, it's great that they're introducing this. Wonderful. But it's completely pointless if you don't actually play hardball with senior Democratic leadership, right? And I'm just not seeing it, man. And it's heartbreaking because, they act like they understand 100 million people underinsured or uninsured. What is that? That's criminal, honestly. I mean, it's not just about, the U.S. is a first world country, which makes it all the more embarrassing. But any country, any human being, right, should have healthcare. It's nothing to do with where you live or where you're from. This is bullshit. But it's all the more embarrassing how they give millions and trillions to corporations and then they do this shit. Like, where was this last year? What the fuck? Were you busy giving all that crap to the corporations? I don't get this. I really don't. It's just lip service, unfortunately. So that's my thoughts. I wish I were wrong. We got over here from Tarot Man. Says, I really like Shadia Mansour rapping. Don't understand though, but liked your duo with Anya Tiju Somosura. So hold on. I gotta look that one up. I got it over here. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh no, hold on. Did you hear that? Yeah, I think you did. I can't play no music because it'll get copyright strike. So I have to keep it for later. But thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And over here we got Sam K saying the 3D Duma investigation video on the New York Times YouTube channel was led by a guy named Robert something. He worked for, still works for Bellingcat. Well, I'm not surprised, right? These people are. I don't even know what to say. That report. That came out, the leaked cables, I just keep saying cables, they're not cables, the leaked documents from the FCO, right, that were published by Anonymous just a few weeks ago, showing how Bellingcat, Reuters, BBC, they were all implicated in this stuff. It's not surprising, I don't think it's so much a question of just Duma, but they lied about it. You had Bellingcat saying, no, we don't take any money from the FCO. Like, look, man, if you're going to take the money or you're not going to take the money and you're reporting crap, you're still reporting crap, right? I frankly don't care if you work for free or you take the money, but if you're going to fucking lie about it, then there's something nefarious going on here, right? If you're taking the money and you're like Lindsey Graham, you remember Lindsey Graham during near attendance hearing? The first thing he says to her is like, look, I know you take a lot of corporate money. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, just be corrupt up front. Just don't you know what I'm saying? Like just be honest with your corruption. Be like Lindsey Graham in that regard. And everything else, no thanks. But be honest with it. But they lied. They fucking lied. They said, no, we're not funded by the FCO. And then, they saw that this story about the Zinc Group leaked. The Zinc Group is like a collective of outlets, and one of them is Bellingcat, and they're financed by the fucking FCO. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're happy to work with Zinc Group now. You lied. You fucking lied. You said you don't take money from the British government. You're a liar. You fucking lied. And it would still be bad if you told the truth, but you were obviously hiding it for a reason. If you have nothing to hide, why would you lie about that? I don't understand. So I'm not surprised that they are complicit in that at all. The New York Times, they're bad enough, but yeah, that's not surprising with them. Zawoldo says even Trump made an announcement for 2K checks. Yes, he did. Yes, as we said earlier, even he did. Like this orange Cheeto man, this fucking idiot who wanted to bomb cultural sites in Iran, like some animal, and that's an insult to animals. But like this barbarian, even he was like, no, I'm going to give you 2,000. I mean, I don't know, probably lying maybe, but how embarrassing to be like outflanked by Trump like that. What does that say about you? God, goodness. They're all on the same team. We all know that. They're all on the same team. It's one big game. We got a hold on, let me pull this up for you over here. Elijah Logan says, I was there. Thank you so much for your work, because censorship is always an aspect of fascism. Thank you, Elijah. I'm very grateful. This was a while back. I'm assuming that maybe you're talking about Palmyra. I'm not sure, because when I posted about Palmyra earlier, some other people would tell me, yeah, I visited in the 70s and I visited there. And, it's I'm glad some people at least got to see it. When I saw it, I was a kid. I don't remember so much of it. I do remember the theater. I remember the Roman archway. I rode a camel there as well. My first and only time riding a camel. Because Palmyra is in the desert, right? And Syrian desert is not like in the movies. It's not like the Sahara with dunes and stuff. It's very rocky. It's very, yeah. So it's still in the desert. I think it's like a 4-hour drive from Damascus, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like a 4-hour drive. I could be wrong, but yeah, it was when I was a kid. I went with my grandparents. It was nice. Then we had tea with Bedouins as well. That was cool. Yeah. Anyway, Bill Nye says, have you seen Graham Elwood's political vigilante game show? I think you would do really well. Have you been invited on? If you were to go on, who would you like to play against? I mean, I've been on Graham's show a couple of times. I love Graham. He's so awesome. I was supposed to get him on my show, and we were both busy, so I need to get him on over here. Because he's had me on several times, and he's an absolute gem. I don't know that game exactly. Is it the one with trivia? Because I played something similar with Combo Couch and Nico, I think, on one time. But so I can't see who I'd like to play against, because I'm not sure about the game. But it sounds good, man. If Graham's running it, I'm sure it's good. I gotta look into that, because I would love to go on. So there we go. With that said, guys, I'm so grateful for all of your support. Let me just plug the show one time fully. And with that said, I would be most grateful if you could donate on Venmo or Cash App or PayPal. Remember, you're not allowed to put the word Syria or Iran or Palestine, because they are, they're dicks. So there you go. It's that simple. And I can't believe that's like something you actually have to watch out for. But if you can spare the cash, anything is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for that. And we also got one donation on Venmo over here from Claudia. Claudia says, it's called Politicians Politricking. Of course, AOC and the DSA and other DSA type politicians sold people out. They sell out the poor and working class of the global South. What did we think they would do to the dispossessed in the United States? Yeah, absolutely. They have a significant contempt for workers. I'd say worldwide. And that's what's messed up it transcends race. It doesn't in many regards. But, that's why we got to have solidarity with each other, no matter what. That's what I think. So there you go. And over here, Rockfin, by the way. So again, we're streaming on Rockfin right now. This is the spot for independent media, man. No censorship, no bullshit. It's all crypto. You're going to find me and all of your other favorite channels on here. Jimmy Dore, Hardlands Media, Convo Couch, Unauthorized Disclosure, Graham Elwood, Ron Placone, Status Coup, Kim Iverson. Did I say Convo Couch? Everyone's here, man. Lee Camp is here, Whitney Webb, Vanessa Bealey, everyone. So, it's really growing and it's really good. And you can make an account for free. Don't cost you nothing. If you want to endorse the channel, it's $10 a month, but you don't just get, my premium. You get everyone's premium. It's like Netflix for politics. I think it's a dope deal. It's a sweet deal. No censorship. Good to go. Other than that, we've also got the Patreon. So I don't know how far along we are, but we haven't had a crab dance today. So if someone signs up, I will gladly play crab dance. And we need one for sure. So I think we're doing well in that regard. We're almost at 400 patrons. And also on Rockfin, we're doing exceptionally well. Thank you to everyone who's endorsed the channel on Rockfin. I really, really appreciate that so much. Because, you're not just supporting my channel. Wherever you go and watch that channel is going to get paid. You know what I'm saying? And there's no ads. So it's really good. So thank you for that. And on top of that, we also have the GoFundMe, right? So I'm just going to pull that up real quick. We almost hit our goal. Thank you to everyone who's donated to it. We were almost there. Look at that. That's got to be over 90% now. So let's get it going. And here you go. Look at that. Scroll down from the mugshots. You see that? We're almost there, baby. So this is for all the technical upgrades. As you can see, for example, this was one of them. This is a lovely mic stand over here because when I first started doing the show, I would stick a tripod between my legs. I'm not kidding. That shit was uncomfortable. You cannot move. And so this is one of the main upgrades. Also, if some of you might remember, we used to have the battery shut off. So we've been able to do some upgrades thanks to you guys. And I really appreciate it so much. Thank you for that. And of course, hopefully when there's less restrictions, I can travel more to cover things locally for you. So that's what it goes to. Couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you so much. And last but not least, get your war criminal merch right here. Okay, go to store.richardmedhurst.com. You're gonna find Joe Biden's Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition Death Cult. You're going to find those over here. These are selling like hotcake. Like I still could not get a hoodie for myself. Every time I go to buy one, it's sold out. So, I mean, look, you see the medium size is gone now. And I don't know what to do. So, thanks again. Shout out to Mona for helping me design these. This is great. And we're going to have even more stuff added to the store very soon. But if you want your Death Cult merch, go to store.richardmedhurst.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm not going to bore you any longer with the plugin. And yeah, there you go, man. That's basically it. You'll find all the segments up shortly. I'm very grateful for your support. You guys are so kind and so generous and sweet. I'm very grateful. Thank you. So with that said, I bid you good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you very soon. Ma salam.